They think I'm hiding in the shadows.
The hell are you supposed to be?
I'm vengeance.
Well, hello everybody.
Hey everyone.
So Cynic actually just made it to the back, like literally as I started it, so that worked out pretty well. How are you doing today, Uninspired?
Man, I'm doing good. What about you?
Can't complain. This all went pretty smoothly, except for the being 10 minutes late. Other than that, I'm okay.
Hey chat, how are you guys doing? Thanks for popping up.
I should probably pull that up so I can actually read it. So yeah, I guess we might as well not waste any time. We'll get the guests out. The guests out. So first we have, hailing from an era when geekdom was protected and gatekeeping was respected, we have the Golden Age Geek. What's
Hello,
up, Golden Age Geek? How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm splendid.
We streamed together a while ago, and we've been in contact ever since. And this is pretty cool to get back together like this.
It is. I'm glad to be here,
and it's a pleasure to finally meet you too.
Likewise.
Irony, me and Uninspired have never actually streamed together. We've been on like multiple streams that have been together, but we have not been. But
it's true.
I don't want to keep Movie Cynic waiting. I had something written for him, but I'm not gonna do it because I want him to just start talking. So here we go. So, what's up, Cynic? I had a whole thing about you being like blue haired and based, but like you don't actually have blue hair.
You've got brown hair now.
Brown hair and something about 100,000 subscribers or some shit. But I don't like
something like that. Do I sound okay? I'm not on my computer. That was the problem. I didn't resolve.
You sound a little different, but I don't think it's a problem.
No, you sound pretty good, man. How you doing, man?
All right, cool. I'm doing pretty good. How are you guys?
I'm doing good.
Hell yeah.
Yes, sir.
So this actually, I picked this movie specifically for you, so I'm glad you could make it. Originally this was supposed to be The Dark Knight, but then you were scheduled for like the same thing like a week ago. So I was like, I'm not gonna make you do the same movie twice in a row.
Yeah, no, I agree to a lot of streams, and so I just don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing. Sometimes it gets doubled up. I don't know.
I was starting to think that you forgot for a minute. Like I sent you the link, and I'm like, "What's going on here?" And then it was like, you were like, "Oh no, I'm coming. I'm coming." It was like that scene in it's like the scene in South Park. The dragons are on their way. It's like the dragons are
No, so, I am here.
Yeah, nice. So, glad to see that everyone's doing well. So yeah, chat, we see you. Thank you guys for coming to the premiere, the first ever show of The Uninspired Hour or so. I guess that's the name we settled on.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I think Platoon the other day was making fun of me because I kept suggesting a little cynical for you guys, for Movie Cynic and him. And then he was like, why didn't you just use the same like formula for yourself? And I was like, because I'm stupid. That's why. So I guess we should start by just talking about the what we remember about when the movie came out. That's usually a good place to start. The actual what was going on around the time, what your general view was, not obviously not detail. We'll go into details in a little bit, but you want to start, Uninspired Reviewer?
Sure. I'll let Golden Age Geek go ahead since he's the guest.
Okay, there we go. I was just going to go clockwise, but we can go that clockwise further.
So the Batman was a movie that I was following very closely when it was first announced because it went through many stages of production. It was supposed to be a sort of adaptation of The Long Halloween, and then it turned into a Two-Face and all these other villains, supposed to be sort of a mashup. And then it was totally put off to the side and something else came in. And then when we got the first trailer, it just absolutely wowed me. So I was very excited for this. It was going to return to a sort of a dark, gritty Batman with a proper theatrical like Gotham. And I will go into why I think Gotham is a very good thing in this movie in particular. So yeah, the trailers absolutely had me excited. I was a little bit on the fence because of where superhero movies have got to at this point, or when this was being released, but overall I was pretty excited to go and see this. And I was surprised in a good way. I felt the experience was very good. I felt like we got something different out of it that made it a bit unique and a bit different from the other live action Batmans. But yeah, that's my general thoughts on it.
Nice. Movie Cynic, what about you? Big Batman fan?
Oh yeah, when this was well, like Golden Age Geek was saying, it went through a lot of stages because it was originally supposed to be a Ben Affleck Batman movie and connected to the EU. And then when he finally just said, I'm not doing this anymore, and they handed it off to Matt Reeves, I was more excited for it once they gave it to Matt Reeves than I never liked Ben Affleck's Batman, really. So
Oh no.
I didn't like it. But I thought everything rolling up to it, I was excited for. I really liked the casting of Robert Pattinson. Ever since Heath Ledger was cast as the Joker, and I doubted that, I've stopped doubting casting choices. And then when the first trailer hit, which was like 2 years before it even came out because of COVID, that was incredible. I thought we were in for a ride because of the brutality of Batman in the trailer, which ends up being his introduction scene in the movie too. And then right before it was released, I was a little nervous because they showed the scene when he was in the Gotham PD and it looked really goofy, and I was a little nervous. But then when it came out, I was really smitten with it. A lot of plot holes have been pointed out to me ever since, and they're present. But everyone hails The Dark Knight too, and I tore that movie to shreds a couple of weeks ago, and still give it like a 9 out of 10. So plot holes aside, this is probably my favorite Batman movie. So yeah, I think it's great.
All right.
That's why we had to have you on for it.
All right.
I think with me, so I enjoy it. I mean, I think almost everybody can admit, even if you do enjoy it, it is a little too long. They could have trimmed a decent amount out of this movie. The last act definitely drags, but the general feel of it, from Gotham to the tech that he uses to, just the way that he carries himself, all feels pretty authentic. It feels really grounded, as opposed to obviously the more cartoony versions. Even recently with Ben Affleck, it was he's
in the Flash,
and the Flash and stuff. Yeah. It's almost like a happy medium between the realism of the Dark Knight trilogy and the still having some of the more comic-y aspects. They do go out of their way to make sure that they follow certain things. Like, I'll get into more later, but I like, the storyline with Selina Kyle being, related to Carmine Falcone, which comes up later. It's all things that they plucked right out of the comics and adapted it pretty well. It is a little on the dark side from time to time. And I mean, physically dark, hard to see sometimes. But that's, I can deal with that. I can always turn the brightness up on my TV. But yeah, I thought it was pretty well. I like you. I've stopped ever doubting a casting until I see it, for the exact same reason you just gave. And I thought Robert Pattinson did a pretty good job. Was he the greatest Batman we ever saw? No, but I think he did a pretty good job. I wish he would have put on a little bit more muscle, maybe got a little bit more bulky for it, just from a aesthetic perspective.
Maybe for the sequel.
Yeah, I mean, because he's supposed to be 2 years deep in this.
2 years, yeah.
So I think he should have bulked up a little bit more. He might just not
just a bit more.
He might. It might just be his build.
It's interesting, our standards for Batman, because Michael Keaton is so small. He didn't bulk up for Batman.
That was the thing back then. That wasn't really the standard. I mean, even Christopher Reeve back then didn't really get bulky for Superman. He was a bigger, a fairly larger guy, but he didn't get shredded for it. So standards were different back then, but now standards are a little bit more you got to get into the shape.
Yeah, now everyone's on the Marvel diet, as I call it.
And I'm not saying that Pattinson wasn't in shape. He was clearly took a diet seriously. He was
definitely in shape.
Yeah, he was toned, but he just it might just be that he physically can't gain a lot of muscle.
And he probably doesn't want to take steroids, man.
Yeah, that is true too.
I mean, that legit could be it, because you cannot, too, you do MMA and stuff. You probably see people that are just jacked out of their minds. And I go to a gym where
if I really wanted to, there's a couple guys that I could ruin their careers if I just said a few words. So it's
yeah, but that's the thing. You cannot look at any Marvel movie and not tell me those guys are fucking roided out.
Yeah, 100%. But
especially in the time that they have to do it too. They get like what?
Oh yeah, like
4
3 months to gain
months.
30 pounds of muscle, or
Yeah.
some insane thing like that. Yeah.
But even like on top of that, like Pattinson, so I've always said, and certain characters this is like Batman, Superman, Spider-Man tend to be these three where you separate them out as like this person played a good Batman, but they didn't play a good Bruce Wayne. A lot of other heroes they don't get that treatment, but those three tend to. And I think he was a really good Batman. His Bruce Wayne could have used a little work.
It's like he hadn't separated the characters yet. Like in story, it was almost like a choice because he was still brooding Bruce Wayne. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that could be if they do make a sequel, who knows what the hell's going on nowadays. But if the sequel, I know it was in talks, and I think it was greenlit. But
surely.
But who knows how
it's being made?
Yeah, who knows how long it'll get backed up now? But I think he could. These are all problems he could fix. So I don't want to hold up any longer. So
and for me, the Batman, I enjoyed it the first time in the cinema. I did see some flaws, but my biggest flaw when I had come out of the theater that first time was something that I'll get into was his basically his indestructibility. It seemed during the movie that I didn't really enjoy. But other than that, I thought that it was just too long for my taste. And even for the story that I wanted to tell, it could have wrapped up, probably about 2 hours, 2 hours 15. But other than that, I think that it's one of the best looking Gotham cities we've ever had.
I agree.
It's just incredible to look at too. And it's a big achievement in filmmaking to make, because, you have Christopher Nolan, he made Batman grounded. But this one just feels completely grounded and street level at the same time. So I think that's a big feat to do while incorporating all the different stories that they try and mesh into. And I haven't really read that many Batman comics, so I can't speak on that. But I did see some elements from the ones that I did read. So I'm happy that we're gonna dive into it.
Well, you hit it right on the head because Gotham itself is a character.
Yep.
That's one thing that kind of separates Marvel and DC in that their locations are usually have a lot of character to them, whereas because Marvel is mostly real cities for the most part, New York and stuff. Obviously you have like Wakanda and such, but there's a lot of made up cities that have their own feel to them in DC, and sometimes it's hard to capture that because in a comic, you have a lot more time to work with it and stuff. In a movie, you have about 30 seconds to get the feel of it. And, if you go back to the original Batman movies, I'm obviously not the serials back in the 30s, but the ones in the 89 Batman, that had a real gothic kind of feel to it. And then obviously the Dark Knight trilogy just kind of felt like a regular everyday city. Like it didn't really, any city you go into could have felt like that.
Yep.
The only thing that had any character in the Dark Knight trilogy was the Narrows in Batman Begins.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
So this is actually like a really good kind of, halfway point between the two. It still feels like a real city, but it doesn't feel like a complete cartoon like the 80s and 90s Batman movies. Because especially the later ones were very cartoony with neon everywhere and stuff. But it doesn't feel quite as cartoony, but it doesn't feel real at the same time. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. So I guess we should start.
I do want to just do this super chat real quick because it seems like it makes sense right up front. So from Copa Catania for $5. Congrats on the maiden voyage. And I just want to say he will be on the next voyage. So I wanted to get that one out early because it makes sense to start with the maiden voyage comment at the beginning.
Thank you, Copa. And we'll just do one more that just came in. So the Grumpy Geordie for £4. You lot talking about the Patterson film? I guess my accent was good. Probably.
Pattinson, but close enough.
Pattinson.
The Patterson film. Yes, we are. Thank you for that. And so I guess that we can start.
So we're gonna do our best. This is our first time doing it with the live movie. We're not gonna play it, obviously, but we're gonna use it as slides. So.
I mean, hell, we can play it and just get copyright struck.
Yeah, but then no one can watch then. So
maybe your whole channel will get taken down.
Yeah, he doesn't care. It's not his channel. It's on mine. He's like, whatever. Who cares?
All right.
All right, so just kind of like, I guess you could just kind of pick like, like random spots in the beginning to go.
Yeah, sure. So I think so this is the beginning with the Riddler looking into his victim's house, basically. I like that the film starts with Ave Maria. And so yeah, this is what we get. I feel like the intro is probably the strongest part of the film, in my opinion. What do you guys think?
Really? I didn't think it was the strongest part of the film. I think there's so many strengths to the film. I probably couldn't even pick a favorite. But I was watching this yesterday with the commentary, and so it was really interesting. He was saying, Matt Reeves was saying he wanted to start the movie with something other than what the typical superhero movie does, which is like some explosive action scene or whatever.
Yep.
And he picked Ave Maria because the Riddler is an orphan, which we'll find out later. But
Spoiler
he
alert.
said, like, yeah, Ave Maria would be something that they made them sing in the orphanage. So I thought that was really cool because it comes back around later too. And I do love this scene because you get such like, I felt a little like Michael Myers horror element to it.
Oh yes.
It did, definitely have that, yeah.
Yeah, like when he's standing in the shadows in the back when he's walking by and you just catch a glimpse. And even the details of like what the Riddler is wearing. What's the actor's name again? I can't believe I'm forgetting his name.
Yeah, I never remember his name. He's like one of those guys I remember from like every
he's
role
the crybaby actor, I call him.
Yeah. But he was the one who decided to put like the plastic wrap around his head because he thought that the Riddler would be so so careful that he wouldn't even leave a hair follicle. So
that's pretty intelligent.
Yeah, so he decided to put the plastic wrap around his head and stuff. So I just thought a lot of this is whatever you think of the movie, because I get harassed for it, loving it so much. But an insane amount of thought went into every aspect of the movie, besides the few plot holes that are there. But yeah.
And what I think works well about this opening scene as well is we see that the Riddler's looking in on his, victims ready to pounce. And the way that the certain camera angles are, it kind of gives you the impression as a member of the audience that you are being watched as well. There's certain shots which go into the corner of the room with the door and then the curtains. It makes you feel as if a presence is always there. So the danger is definitely felt, I think.
Yep, for sure, 100%.
I still think that like the sequence when the mayor moves out of the way and you just see like the big glasses with the like TV in it,
reflection,
it looks like, the reflection. I think that. So I hadn't watched this movie since I saw it in the theaters, and I remember in the theaters I thought that scene kind of like gave me a little of a chill because it was like I knew he was there, but it was just the way it looked was really like not caught me off guard, and it still did the same thing the second time around where it's like I even knew what he was going to look like, but it was very perfectly like the way it was framed was just so well done.
And it's also like well thought out as a character introduction because you see when he takes down the well, I think it's not the mayor, it's someone who's running for
no, he's the mayor, he's running for re-election.
Yeah, he's the current mayor.
Yeah, so when he takes down the mayor, you can see that he swings his entire body down basically to bring him down, which I thought was really, really smart, especially when the first time I saw it in the cinema, I was like, oh wow. So you're already telling us something about the character, that he's not very big, but he does need his entire body weight just to take down someone, and he needs to completely hit him again and again to make sure that the job is done.
My favorite thing is that it's already the weapon of choice is already setting up something for later. Yeah, that's something I love about this movie is that every detail
so
matters.
Well thought out.
Yeah, it is.
There was one thing that Matt Reeves said Paul Dano did that he wished he could have included, but he couldn't, which was like they shot it so many times because he just was unrelenting and like, I think I have more. And there was, after he kills him, before he goes to pick up the whatever you call it.
It's a tucker. It's like
a tucker. Yeah.
Carpet tucker.
He said that he pulled almost like a Patrick Bateman after he killed Paul Allen. He was like so exhausted he decided to go sit and rest for a few minutes, and I would have loved to have seen like a director's cut of this where he's doing stuff like that. Yeah.
They should have posted the extended version of this on YouTube instead of that god awful Joker tease.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
Joker tease was so like this movie for whatever reason gets criticism for ripping off of Seven, which is clearly intentional, even though The Dark Knight for some reason gets away with completely ripping off Heat.
Speaking of which,
But
there's
that scene that they put on YouTube with the Joker is so disgustingly Silence of the Lambs. Like, it's so on the nose. I absolutely hate that scene. I'm so glad it's not in this movie.
Oh, thankfully, yeah. And then, yeah, go ahead, Dark Hour.
I was gonna say, so we're talking about like obviously the Riddler now. I did like how it was portrayed, but it definitely felt like almost like a completely unique character because the Riddler has never really been portrayed this way ever in any kind. He was never like he's always been more of like a narcissist who like wants to prove he's smarter than Batman. So like the way that they did this, almost like a member of like Anonymous being like that whole thing. It was just it was definitely a weird take. It worked well. It was just something I wasn't expecting. It definitely would have fit in like the Arkham universe, like the Arkham Asylum / like the games.
The games universe,
and then the subsequent books that came out with that. That would this version of the Riddler would have fit in really well with that.
Yeah, I think so too.
To Copa's comment too about I don't even consider the ending like a third act. I feel like it's a fourth act.
Yes.
And I like what they did with it, but it was also unnecessary. They could have had the same thing after Riddler was caught. But I never looked at it as like an army of incels or whatever. I looked at it as like actual QAnon stuff. Yeah. Because if I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, QAnon is a bunch of fucking idiots. And I watched a documentary on it too, and like they're not incels or anything. They're just really stupid people, like literally husbands and wives and people who are married. They're just dumbasses. And I thought that's what this was supposed to be. His army was just a bunch of fucking morons, not necessarily like some like haha left wing incel, whatever the fuck. I never took it like that, but yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get that's well, actually, you might not get there. That's the end of the movie.
Well, I don't know. I'm already having fun, so I might just skip out on Ninja Turtles.
Dude, come on. That's you can't. I mean, I'd be honored if you did that for us, but it's it's your livelihood.
I love talking about this movie, and I haven't gotten to like really talk about it. With other fans. Whenever this movie's brought up, I normally get harassed for liking it. So,
Cynic, why do you like it? Why do you like it, man? Why?
Didn't you get harassed on? Wasn't that part of Open Bar recently? Like, didn't that?
Oh yeah, even on Open Bar, a drinker asked me, he's like, "So, if you were to make this movie, would you have made the final act with the flood and blah blah blah?"
And so,
no.
He was just like, "Okay, let's get this open here," and then
glug.
Let me ask you a question now.
Normally it's from like Little Platoon and Mr. Brown. Drinker and Mahler and everyone else were nicer about it.
So then after this we've got Batman's basically his monologue that he says that he's been doing for 2 years, and we got our first look at Gotham City, which is basically from here, and then we go all the way down. And fun fact. And fun fact, a lot of it was practical. So they actually built a proper set like this with functioning LEDs, big signboards, just to be able to project everything in real time, which I think is great, honestly. Then they populated the streets.
So beautiful.
It really does look like Times Square right there. Like it really does.
Yeah, but a Gotham Times Square.
Yeah,
it's its own
like
version.
1980s Times Square is what that looks like.
Yeah, basically.
It does remind me of the opening of Batman Arkham Knight. That sequence when you see Gotham and then the Scarecrow's gas going through there. It really reminds me of that.
It's true. Yep.
And I love this too because he's narrating, and obviously it's straight from his journal. He's narrating his journal entry, but this is such a noir thing to do. Like if you go back and watch old noir movies, It's like a classic trope to have the protagonist narrating in this dark, ominous tone.
Yep.
It's very Batman, but it's also very in line with the style of film they're trying to craft.
Yeah, it's all the detectives, all the when you see a noir parody in like something like Family Guy, you always have him in like a trench coat and everything. Then you hear him
Yes.
narrating. He's like, so today, and then he's like, hey, doll, how are you doing, doll? This is like, come on.
Yeah.
I swear, the meth edition.
And then
I'm trying to keep up with the chat. I'm new to this, guys. I haven't done it in a while. So.
Go ahead, Dark Howard.
I was gonna say, I just, having worked with the LED tiles for a long time, that was probably extremely difficult to do. Like that, from a technical standpoint, what they built with those was not easy. So
for sure.
Yeah.
And you also have like the different elements. For example, if you pay close attention, sometimes you can see like they make sure to show you locations that will be visited later on. That's what I would like to say. So for example, sometimes you can see basically the cafe where Riddler gets arrested. You see all of that. Then here you go. Then we've got the bat symbol putting the fear into everyone, which I have a bit of a problem with, but I'll say after.
They do show multiple times throughout the film Gotham Square Garden, was the Madison Square Garden or Boston Garden of the city. But I actually really enjoyed this opening. I think that, like you said, like the noir style narration really works for Batman. Like, I don't think any other hero would really. Maybe a Daredevil could do something like this, but I think Batman
Daredevil probably could.
Yeah,
I mean, you've got Rorschach that does it too. From
Rorschach is essentially like if you took the question and gave him some of Batman's motivations and then took away all of his inhibitions. So that's basically what Rorschach is. So.
And so then you've got the intro, you've got Gotham again. Gotham looks incredible, even though you know that it's like it's real locations. I think a lot of it was shot in Liverpool actually. So they basically they enhanced Liverpool basically for some of the Gotham shots, which is pretty interesting actually. And then you continue, and then after that we've got the kids on the train. I don't know if they're a reference to maybe
so having read a lot of Batman comics over the years, I don't think that they're a specific gang or anything. I think it's just like it's just because it's Halloween, they're just dressed up as like skeletons. I can't recall there ever being like a specific gang of white face painted people.
Yeah, because I play a lot of the Arkham games, and in the Arkham games, you've got a lot of these goons that you have to take care of that are all like white face painted. So I could see.
I think it's just easy. Like clearly these people are unhinged kind of look that you can go for. So I don't think it's any specific people. Like it kind of reminds me of in Batman Returns, they had like a lot of the Penguin's like underlings had like different kinds of like circus makeup on.
I see what you mean.
So it kind of reminds me a little bit like that.
This scene is also good because, as we see with the one kid that's being pressured by the rest of the group, it does create a circular structure to the entire story. Because, as we were saying at the beginning with the Riddler's choice of weapon and the locations, we do see how that sort of peer pressure and being led into this group to enforce these criminal actions is the same with Riddler's followers at the end of the movie. So that creates a good link there.
It does. And I just think that it's super interesting too to have him pop out like this. But so this is one of my first issues. Is this guy over here? He asks him. He's like, he says, "Well, who are you?
Who the hell are you supposed to be?"
It does that is a little weird that they don't know. After 2 years.
If you guys didn't bring that up, I was going to too. I mean, like it's the way to get him to be able to say like I'm vengeance or whatever. But like everyone. He's literally narrating 2 seconds earlier that everyone knows who the hell he is. Everyone knows.
You even see you have people looking up at the bat signal and running away from their crimes. They're like, "Oh no, I'm not going in this dark alley. I wouldn't go either way." But Batman might be here. So it's just weird to have characters where they're like, "Who is this guy?" It's like you know him. It's Batman. I would say that it's easier if there wasn't the bat signal aspect of it, that he was still, pretty much underground and not working with the officers by this time.
It could be like, you can get away with it by saying, it's a rhetorical question because it's Halloween, and maybe this is just a dude dressed up as Batman. So he's like, oh, who are you supposed to be? And then gets his ass kicked. But either way, it didn't really jive with me.
One thing I do love about this whole sequence, first of all, I like the fact that I think we're getting our first look at his outfit. So in a minute, I like to go around and get everybody's opinion on that. But because of the fact he actually wears armor with metal, you get that kind of like spurs sound from him walking. That like
that was great.
Which gives it then harkens out to another type of film genre, but like like the guy like showing up and like being the badass who walked out, and like I loved the way they did that. I thought it was a perfect intro for the way Batman is. It is a little strange though, because like, was he just like chilling in that like unused subway tube for a while and hoping that people would get off and beat somebody up?
No, because Matt Reeves was talking about, it's a good thing I watched some of it yesterday with the commentary on, but he was talking about how like the actual ability, he's like, how does Batman track crime? Because, in practice in the real world, it would not make any potential sense. So that he's walking around Gotham at the beginning, like when it's panning down and showing like essentially Times Square Gotham, he's walking through and everything, and he comes across this, so he follows them and tracks them and changes into his bat suit.
I must have missed that.
Yeah, and I do love this introduction for him, because it also showcases that Matt Reeves is he's way better with his camera in a lot of ways than like Christopher Nolan is, because he actually just like allows the fight to happen on screen instead of having 80 cutaways.
I agree.
It's one of the best Batman fights I've seen on camera. I just thought it was a brilliant introduction because it really showcases his brutality, and Matt Reeves actually allows it to be shown instead of like cutting all over the goddamn place.
I think that applies to the entire movie, because if you pay attention properly, the entire movie is basically just holding shots for longer than you would expect, actually. Even just for dialogue and stuff like that, they hold shots so long just to make sure that you capture everything with your eyes, because it is a visual feast, as we said in the intro.
I mean,
and the longest shots
for best cinematography, in my opinion. I thought the cinematography in this movie is amazing.
And the longer shots do actually add a lot to the character of this Batman, because with him pinning up criminals against the wall and staring at them in their face, it's almost as if he is admiring his work, as if he's losing himself in the crime fighting in a way, which does add a lot to the whole balance that he does have to go through with it, except in the more sort of Bruce Wayne side of himself.
It's true. Yep, and it's something that they use as a theme through the movie, which is pretty good too. Just amplifies the action. And so
I also enjoy that, like, so he's 2 years in. So he's already he's a pretty good fighter at this point, but he's not. I mean, he's sort of indestructible because of his outfit, but like he's not like indestructible from a standpoint of like he still gets hit a lot and stuff. A lot of other versions of Batman have been shown to not really get hit. Like he's almost like, which is completely unrealistic when you're fighting like.
I mean, he's fighting like 8 people.
Yeah, 8 people.
It's not like Arkham City where you can just do combos and take down everyone.
Yeah.
Right, where he has like a spider sense, essentially.
Like he does have moments of that. Specifically later in the movie when he has to deal with like other stuff, but like there are moments where he does dodge, but then there's like kind of like random happenstance situations where he like sort of falls into a good spot. So pretty good fighter, shitty detective.
Well,
I'll get into that later. That there is a scene that does. I'm like, there's no way he didn't figure that out. Like,
and
this is where he's becoming a detective. Okay,
yeah,
he's not the world's greatest detective yet.
Alfred does most of the work.
So now you have to remember too, like, you know, like a lot of the things that Batman does are completely unrelated to each other. So he has to understand tech. So he has to build his own tech for the most part. He has to. I can tell you from doing it for 15 years, being a martial artist that actually can fight people on the level he is. That in and of itself is a full-time job. Like, and I get that he's a billionaire.
That's the I was gonna say, in the commentary too, it's juxtaposed that him and Riddler are both orphans, but he has the luxury of money, so he could devote all of his life to doing this. Unlike Riddler, so like he can have multiple full-time jobs.
But the one thing that you really can't learn ahead of time, you already just kind of said, you have to learn how to be a good detective. You can't just you can't go to school to be and you can't just read a book to be a good detective. You have to get a keen sense of understanding of what you're looking for, which they kind of show throughout this. He finds everything he needs, but it's sometimes it's quickly and other times it's slower.
It's something that Robert Pattinson said. Yeah, go ahead, movie cynic.
Oh, I was just going to say, I felt this movie was a good way to showcase his intellect, but not his detective skills necessarily. Like he's really quick with the riddles and stuff, and I thought that was great. And I'm hoping the next movie is another detective style story, and he's like fucking super keen. But yeah, go ahead, Uninspired. Sorry.
Robert Pattinson was saying that he was actually happy with the script because he said it's one of the only Batman movies that recent, like with the iteration, where you actually see Batman as a super keen and observant person. Because once he enters any crime scene, he's just looking around. He doesn't really do anything else. He's just looking, observing. Plus, it keeps that mystique to him in comparison to everyone else around him, which is pretty good. Don't
forget, he's also has cameras in his lenses, so he's actually not necessarily just doing it from for an aesthetic purpose of oh, look at me, I'm really looking. He's actually using it as a way to scan the whole crime, because he no matter how in cahoots he is with Gordon and some of the cops, most of them don't like him. He can only stay there for so long before press gets there and shit. It doesn't matter how much they respect him, even if
evidence essentially.
And even if everybody in that room was like, yeah, we want Batman to do this, the press is going to show up, and the press is then going to get pictures of it. So he needs to get as much evidence as he can and keep it in a way he can go do more research later.
Yep, for sure. And that's actually something that I'll bounce on when we get there, which is pretty soon. So now we've got the Batman coming to the crime scene of the mayor, basically, with what the Riddler has done, meeting Jim Gordon. It's our first time meeting, Jim Gordon. So what do you guys think about this version of him?
I thought it was great.
Yeah, I thought it was good.
Yeah, I love this casting choice too, and it does go along with Seven. If Batman is a little in a more advanced version of Brad Pitt's character as far as technical ability and knowledge and stuff, this is Morgan Freeman's character.
It is.
I thought it was brilliant. I mean, a lot of the shots here too are heavily influenced by Seven. Some of them are just straight up homages. Even when he's panning up with the flashlight and stuff. In my review of it a year ago, I put those shots back to back.
Wasn't that your first ever video?
Yeah, my first video I ever did. Yep. But I thought it was fantastic casting. It really suits the character. Yeah.
This is actually a good question for you, Cynic. Is he better than the Gary Oldman Gordon?
Ooh.
I mean, it's good for everybody, but it's especially good for Cynic.
I haven't seen enough of it yet. I got 3 movies of Gary Oldman's Gordon.
Yeah.
I love him as Gordon, but I also prefer Matt Reeves' dialogue to Christopher Nolan's a lot. And, I think Gary Oldman's a better actor. He's had way more iconic roles, but I don't know. If you wanted, there are pros and cons. Gary Oldman for now. Let me see 2 more movies.
I'll say this. I think that the way that they handled the overall, at least for this one, the Gotham PD was way more fleshed out in terms of even some of the lesser officers.
Gotham PD feeling like it actually exists.
Yeah, it actually existed. It wasn't just a couple of guys in a it felt like a real police department.
Yeah.
And everybody in there seemed to have their own motivations too. Even the lesser characters, some of them are you know, like some of them are very anti-Batman. Like he comes on the just in this scene alone, you get the body language off of all of them. Some of them are like indifferent to him being there. It's like whatever. And then some of them are like looking at it like, what the hell are you bringing this dude in here for? Like, you know, like we don't want to deal with that. So it definitely, like, everybody felt like they were actually people in this Gotham PD.
For sure. I agree. And Golden Age Geek, what do you think about Detective Jim Gordon in this one?
I think it was very good how Matt Reeves did it, because in the Christopher Nolan films, he is sort of a perfect hero in the sense that Gordon is always a character you can look to and say, right, he has the right intentions.
Yeah.
But with this version of Jim Gordon, the dynamic between him and Batman is very different, because they don't fully understand what each other is doing, but they do have that little bit of hope that, right, I don't know exactly what they're doing at this point in time, but I know that their intentions are good. So it's that subtlety to it that I do like it. And again, it's more sort of grounded in human relationship.
Yeah, it is. Plus, I think that it helps for the fact that Jeffrey Wright, who played Jim Gordon, basically he has that sort of charisma with him, you know, like a young Jim Gordon charisma, even though he's a bit aged, you know, in comparison to Gary Oldman's, for example.
So, and also they really treat him like lower on the totem pole here, whereas in the Dark Knight trilogy, and I obviously if you go to the older Batman movies, he was just I think he was already Commissioner Gordon at that point. Like he wasn't. They didn't even play the whole like sergeant level and stuff. In
Batman Begins, they did because he becomes commissioner halfway.
Well,
through
I was going to say
Knight,
with the Dark Knight trilogy, like I know that he works his way up the totem pole of you know, in the ranks, but
one death at a time.
Yeah, you kind of get the sense in there that he's not really ever listening to the people above him, whereas here he actually like he will, but he'll kind of find a way within the rule, like within like his instructions to still break the rules a little bit, which I love. I love.
Yeah, like when he helps Batman escape the police department. I really like that. Yeah.
Very like law. It's almost like lawful neutral. If you were to use like a terminology from D&D. It's like he still operates within like the structure of Gotham PD, even though he's aware that it's corrupt.
Yep.
Whereas
it just goes to show how good he is of you know, following the law.
Yeah, but he still accomplishes his goals outside of it somehow without breaking it, which is pretty cool.
Yep.
I thought he was fantastic. I don't remember this. Like I know like one of the hot button topics is always race swaps and stuff. I don't remember there being a huge backlash for this one. I might be misremembering.
He was good.
Yeah, that's because he was fantastic at
it. This just speaks to why and when we normally say something about it. It's because of the intent behind it. Yeah. Here, it just felt like they hired someone who's the best person for the role.
Exactly.
And so who gives a shit? I mean, same with Catwoman. Like, who cares? Like, this flies in the face of anyone who ever makes that argument or calls you an Isterism for like talking about it with just like, you know, a wide brush. It's the fact that like the intent here was to hire the best person to suit the role, and that's it.
Yep, exactly. So now that we've got a bit of Batman's costume, what do you guys think of the cowl? Since we've
love it.
Screen? Really,
I love it. Yeah. I thought this was a really cool mixture of a bunch of costumes throughout Batman history. So I always, someone else pointed out, it looked like a different cowl, but the way that it's framed and like stitched together, it looks a lot like I think it was like a one shot called Gotham by Gaslight, but it's also very popular.
Yes.
It's the way it's stitched like right up through the forehead and down, the way the ears are. I thought that was great. The actual cowl itself, where it has like I don't even know what you'd call it, like it's a collar of some kind.
It's
I can't remember. That's kind of like Gotham by Gaslight too, I think.
A little bit.
It has a cowl type like that.
Yeah, it's like a popped collar is what you're basically saying. Like it's like
it also helps with probably with Robert Pattinson's acting too, because he can turn his neck and it kind of disguises like when it scrunches up, because it's mostly rubber and looks a little silly.
That's always something I find hilarious with certain ones, or how they have to like do the whole like movement.
They've finally figured out how to make it not look ridiculous, thankfully.
As for the cowl, this actually kind of reminds me of like the old serials
for sure.
Like it really looks a lot like the old serials to me. And like anybody who's ever seen those, I think they were like the 30s or something. Like
in the 30s, yeah,
like had this particular like cowl and mask combo. The ears are a little bit bigger than that one was, but it's very reminiscent of that, where it almost just looks like a leather mask that pulls over his. And they even like kind of emphasize that it's not really armored throughout the movie.
right.
Like, the rest of him is armored, but that isn't.
And what's great too is when he takes the cowl off and the black paint that's all across his eyes, like they even addressed that. That's been a standard throughout Batman movie history. But normally when people take the masks off, there is no black. Like we're not supposed to know that he paints around his eyes. And here it's like, no, of course he does. Of course he paints around his eyes.
The legendary clip from Batman Returns where
Batman Returns.
The scene he has it, and then like he cuts down like off camera, comes back up, and it's like God.
Yeah, it's like, why wouldn't you just leave that on? Like, it's cool. It adds to the character. This is the first movie that did that.
No one cares, man. It's like no one's gonna.
Yeah, but he got called emo Batman for it, so maybe that's why.
I mean, he was gonna get called emo Batman either way. Like,
which is ridiculous. Like, it's literally Nirvana is in this, and they said they based his young Bruce Wayne attitude off of like a Kurt Cobain anarchist type. That's grunge, not emo. This is not Fall Out Boy Batman. It's such a catch-all term, and people don't even know what the fuck it means anymore.
So I actually
teach him, Cynic.
I will defend this movie.
I said backstage before you. Well, you were never backstage. You were right on the show. You were just like came right in. But I remembered there being way more Nirvana in this movie than there actually was. For some reason in my mind it played like 5 or 6 times and only played twice. So.
Yeah,
and it was right around this scene where we're watching right now, and then
it's right after this scene. Yep, and then at the end.
Golden Age, what do you think about the Batman, the headgear?
Well, with the headgear and the entire suit, I wouldn't say. Well, I don't personally find it aesthetically pleasing, but I think ironically that's why I like it so much, because most of the time when we see these superhero movies, whether it's the other Batman iterations or perhaps like an Iron Man, we always get a suit that on their first go, they create like a perfect suit, that perfect design and perfect practicality to it. But with this one, I can actually imagine in universe that Pattinson's Batman would have gone out for a few of the first times in a very crappy looking costume. And then perhaps he got beaten and then he went back and said, right, I have to put this piece of armor here. And then he went out again and perhaps he got hit in a different place. So I can kind of imagine that he kind of piece this together a little bit every single night, if you know what I mean, because the way it looks together, in a way it looks like it's been all thrown together, all the different materials and that sort of thing. So I can imagine that again he would have got into different situations where he would have learned that the suit needs different functions. He would have gone back, adapted it, whereas if you look at something like the Batfleck suit, it looks too perfect in a way that it doesn't feel like that would have been a natural progression for the design of the suit. It kind of feels like, I've got loads of money, let's just throw this together. Oh, it works great. But with this one, I feel like there is a character within the suit as well. But the suit is itself a character that has adapted throughout the crime fighting career.
Yeah, 100% see that. I think it's what they had in mind, and they made it come through so well. So props to the costume department. You guys were awesome.
Like even like the gauntlets that he wears, which typically have like 3 spikes, and each movie gives it like various reasons for existence. Like I really liked how the Dark Knight trilogy did it. Like it was part of the League of Shadows armor, and he kept that, and he utilized it a lot. Here he still has the 3, but they're not spikes. They're actually like where he tightens up his gauntlets, and those are just the 3 straps that are
they're
showing.
They're more like welder's gloves. Because like welders gloves go like that, so it's like and he even over that he has like I can never really tell exactly what it is, but it's like running like metal bars over it, like that go off the top too. That
he never utilized those. I thought there was something that he like shoots. I thought that would have been cool to use.
There was some things that about the suit that he didn't use yet, which is I actually like that because it's like it doesn't come off like, oh, I just happen to have everything I need for the moment. Like I'm actually equipped for situations I'm not involved with right now, which is pretty cool. I do think they may have gone a little overboard on the heavy armor at certain points. Like I do
like in the chest plate.
Well, I do. What I mean by that is like overusing it as like a gimmick.
Just to have
yeah.
the flashes, you know, to make
Yeah.
it the scene look even more cool.
Yeah, like I mean, there's parts where he's tanking things he shouldn't be.
Hey
Even
man, sometimes we do just want to see cool shit. Okay.
Well, I think that's
I mean, it's
actually a
pretty
thing.
cool. Yeah.
That's actually a thing. I think it's called like the rule of cool. I'm
The
not
rule
sure
of
if,
cool, yeah.
yeah, basically. So if it's cool, filmmakers will discard logic sometimes. Well, it depends on the filmmaker, but they'll discard logic just to have it on screen because they know that the audience will be like, you know what, it was fucking cool anyways. So
Yeah.
But that being
like
said,
that.
I do like the fact that his not only is his suit, but his tech is all grounded. Like everything, it like makes sense. It's like from the Batmobile, which we'll get into later. But like even like his gadgets don't come off as very like they're not like bat themed gadgets. They're just gadgets. It's like it's not, he didn't go back to the cave like, yes, this worked, but how can I make it more batty?
He doesn't have a bat card ATM,
Yeah.
you know.
But it's like he when he pulls his grapnel gun out, it's literally just like a hook. It's not actually like
it's not shaped like a bat.
Yeah, like he's not worrying about that kind of stuff. Which a person in
I mean, the Batmobile doesn't have a bat aesthetic, neither does the motorcycle. Like,
I mean,
at all.
if you look at it from directly
functionality.
from behind, you might be able to say it kind of has wings because if it's like spoiler. But like, other than that, it doesn't have like like a bat aesthetic. His motorcycle is, like you said, just a motorcycle. It doesn't have wings sticking off the back.
He doesn't have batarangs in this.
No, he doesn't. He
has his chest plate that comes out basically, and that's pretty much it.
Oh yeah.
However,
like a giant
he doesn't have
knife.
my favorite thing of all time, the Bat Shark. I gotta do. We have to do that movie one day. The old Batman movie from the show. Like
we should. And then, so yeah, now we've got the Gotham Square again, which looks pretty good in the Rising Sun. Now it's really good.
Not raining for once.
Yep. And then here's Gotham, I guess.
Now this is important too, that they constantly show you that Gotham is an island. And it has a seawall, and that's very important. Like these details come back to mean something later.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we could move on a little bit from here because I know that this is a lot of like visual shot. Yeah, there you go. You got through it.
So then here we are. Yeah, I like the Batcave because I feel like it's normal. It's basically just abandoned. I think it was like under the train or the train station.
His way of getting into it is basically like a forgotten subway station. Like he knows where it is because it connects directly to his house. Well, not his house, his because I think they basically have it like as it's like he's not living at the mansion. I don't think at this point he's like living.
It doesn't look like it.
No,
yeah, he's living in the city.
Yeah. So it's like a section of like somewhere underneath that he knows where it is, and that would make sense. He has access to a lot of the early days like blueprints because most of this stuff was done by Wayne Enterprise.
Yep.
So like they would have all of that, and some of it might not even be in public record at that point because it's like it's just lost to years. Like it's somewhere in a filing cabinet no one's ever going to look at ever again.
For sure. So we were talking about the gadgets and everything like that. So I wanted to bring up, is there a specific timeline in which the movie is set? Because the film itself doesn't really give you anything to work with to see if it's in, really modern day, because the only thing that you would have are smartphones, and they do have them in the movie, but they're very intentionally blurry each time you see them. So you can't really tell.
Yeah, but he also has like, the contact lenses that are cameras and stuff. It feels like it's supposed to be modern.
Yeah, but still, I mean, compared to the city itself, that's what makes Gotham, really unique in my opinion, because you can't really tell this even just by looking at the city alone.
It definitely has.
Well,
like
I've never been over there. Yeah, I've never been over to the UK, but isn't that like what they have going on over there? It's like really historic, but it's still 2023.
I mean, golden age. That's for you.
I'm not too sure about that.
Well, you live there. To you, it's just normal.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, to you, it's normal.
He just walks out and he's like, "Yeah, 600-year-old buildings. This is completely normal."
That's right.
I mean, like I told you guys that in France, where I live specifically, I literally have a Roman Colosseum down the street. So it's like For me, this is a bit weird. Like it's too old for me, but I have a lot of weird ass old buildings here. You can't really find modern architecture in France a lot, except inside the big towns. So I think that
almost
that's
every
pretty
city in the
interesting too.
United States at some point has gone through some major renovation. So a lot of there's a few like Boston, like I know Cynic, you've been to Boston plenty of times, has like a more historic kind of feel to it. But like
I don't know about that anymore, man. Every time I ever visited there, it's just like more massive buildings being put up. It just looks super
there's still
modern
sections you can go to that have like a feel of history, but for the most part, I mean, the United States for the most part missed any of the era where we could have had like medieval like buildings. Like we can't really even have any of that like Gothic architecture.
Dude, America is brand spanking new, really. Still,
Yeah,
so, we don't have anything old.
It's brand new. And
what I would say about the architecture in the UK is you will find a lot of houses that are just made purely from brick, and there's no sort of coating over it to kind of disguise that. So it in a way, it does kind of look a bit old in the sense that it looks like you've had about 6 men just put all these bricks together and just put them into place. So,
and then they went, that was good enough. This is good enough. This is fine. Someone can live here. Move on to the next.
It'll be all right. It'll be all right.
So yeah,
then, it'll be fine.
And then now we've got Alfred. So yeah,
I actually wanted to ask everybody, where does he rank in your Alfreds?
There you go. That's my response with the help of Andrew.
I don't.
Okay, if Andrew said it's peak Alfred, it's clearly not right. So,
I definitely didn't dislike him. Honestly, I feel like Michael Caine's Alfred is super overrated.
I actually don't like Michael Caine's version of it at all, and I've always said that in my opinion, he was one of the weakest aspects of the Dark Knight trilogy. So I was glad that they kind of went away from that style. Jeremy Irons, I didn't get enough of to really get a sense on who he was.
Yeah,
he was.
That's bad, actually.
Jeremy Irons,
he was good for me.
Jeremy Irons could have been an awesome Alfred, but we didn't really get a chance to see it. And I mean, what is it, Michael Gow or Goff or however you pronounce the original guy from the 90s?
He's my favorite Alfred.
He was probably that was peak Alfred.
Yep.
Yeah, Andrew, he was like all the aspects of Alfred that you want in one portrayal. I feel like this Alfred is this one's heavily influenced by Batman Earth 1, that graphic novel series, which is excellent. But Alfred essentially was like, a former, I don't think they specify, but a Marine or something, like he worked for Secret Service or something.
He was a British I think he was in like the British Royal Army, and he was I don't think he was intelligent, he was also a medic, because that's one of the reasons why
he taught Bruce in this movie how to fight. They allude to that, which is also what happened in the Batman Earth 1 graphic novel series.
He was he was like some sort of like special forces medic, though, because I know that's how they always keep that, because that's the way that they skirt around the fact that Batman doesn't need to go to the
in here they said MI6. Right. He was MI6.
Okay, MI6.
Yeah.
But I think this is great. It keeps everything in-house. There's no League of Shadows. Not that I disliked that storyline at all. I think it's great. It's just like there are other routes to get to where Batman is, and I liked this aspect too. I like this portrayal of it. Alfred's the one who taught him everything.
Yeah, it keeps the story. It keeps the story. How do I say it? Personal, basically. In comparison to Wayne and everything surrounding his family and how he is. So yeah, here you go from Z. All Alfreds are based Alfreds. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the point. Is he's supposed to be the grounding force in Bruce's life? Yeah. Always. From comic, cartoon, movie, it doesn't matter. He's always supposed to be the tether to the real world for him. So it's Alfred. One of Alfred's unwritten jobs. His written job is that he keeps the house in order and like does all that stuff. But one of his unwritten jobs is that he constantly reminds Batman, like, "Hey, you still need to be Bruce Wayne. This is the things you need to do. I pressed your suit. Please leave the house and make an appearance." Eat this tangerine. Since someone said a tangerine in there,
tangerine.
It's the size of a tangerine.
God. I went on a spiel when we were doing Dark Knight about how I couldn't understand what the fuck Michael Caine was saying, like half the movie.
So there's the old joke about how if you want to say his name in his accent, just say Mike Cocaine.
Michael Caine.
My cocaine. What
That
Golden?
worked
What
really
is
well.
his specific British accent type?
Oh, I
Mike-
honestly don't know. In the UK, it's so funny. You can travel 20 minutes and there'll be a totally different one. And so yeah, there's so many. But
I'll
to the
look up
point
what
of
it's called.
Alfred, what I will say is I do like Andy Serkis's Alfred because he does have a level of strength to him that I don't think the other ones necessarily had. Like, can you really imagine Michael Caine's Alfred going into the Narrows, climbing up all those buildings, picking up Batman on the roof, and carrying him down? Like, no, but with Andy Serkis's
No.
Batman, Andy Serkis does have this sort of stern look to him that makes you think if you did try anything with him, he'd absolutely just batter you onto the ground. Whereas with the other ones, I don't really, because Alfred is supposed to be someone who Batman gets into trouble a lot and perhaps he passes out, he gets beaten up, and Alfred sort of has to clean up after him. And I can see that this Alfred would have the ability to do that more so than the other ones.
Little Kenergy.
Yeah.
But I don't have another pair of sunglasses to throw over. I have a pair of regular glasses I can throw over it. So
Wow. And yeah, but like I'm okay with Alfred being the MI6 and everything like that in this one, especially it seems as if he's basically fresh off of that. Maybe he was just discharged because he is injured in this one. So, but it does raise it makes me raise an issue that I have that I'll talk about later when we get to that point. But yeah, so just keep that in mind. So then here we have
hold that thought.
yeah.
I just realized something because I was looking up where Michael Caine was. Did you guys know he's 90 years old?
Holy shite.
Like
He
now?
was born. Yes, he was born in 1933.
Damn.
He is he looks damn good for 90. Like I would have guessed he was in obviously I knew he was older. I would have been like, what's he like 72? Like, but 90, like that's pretty. He looks pretty damn good for 90.
He's 90. I think Clint Eastwood is older than him.
Yeah, but Clint Eastwood looks older than him. Like Michael Caine still looks like he's able to function. For the most part, usually when you cross the 90 threshold, you're kind of just done.
This may be an unpopular opinion, but I loved Michael Caine in Jaws 4. So there you go, because I like Jaws 4 as a film. Yeah,
I don't
Jaws
remember
4
if
is
I've
such a
ever
piece of
seen
shit. I
Jaws
love it.
4, to be honest with you.
Man, I love
Jaws the
4.
Revenge.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then I have seen that one. I didn't remember it by the number.
It's in Jamaica. It's pretty good, man.
Is that the one where like the actual the sharks have like a vendetta against
Yes.
people or
Yes,
whatever?
the shark is out for revenge.
Yeah,
It's so good.
it's like a B movie masquerading as like as an A-list movie.
Yeah,
Dude,
and it's got young Michael Caine.
Yep, it's a really bad, amazing movie.
Yep, I agree with Cynic.
I think you just got the answer, Iceman. I think we all just agree. Wrong one. I think we all just agreed that him having to deal with the revenge of Jaws.
Jaws, yeah, Jaws the Revenge, the best one. And so yeah, in that scene we had Alfred and Batman. They were deciphering what the Riddler had, and so now they've gone to see the car because that was drive was the message that was left. So they're going to see the mayor's car and look at it for evidence.
Thumb drive.
Yeah, thumb drive. I actually like that line. It was just
I did too.
It was funny out of nowhere and unintentionally too. And so yeah, then you've got the thumb drive, and that's when they find all the mayor's documents, not the mayor's documents, but the pictures that were taken of the mayor. The blackmail. Yeah, so the blackmail, which leads us to Penguin, basically. And
this is the one thing that really bothered the shit out of me, because I feel like this is the biggest plot hole in the whole movie.
Yep.
Why wouldn't you go and investigate where those photos
were taken pictures from? Were taken? Yep.
that bothers me more than any other plot hole in the entire movie.
So, well, it wouldn't have bothered me if it wasn't something so incredibly relevant at the end of the movie.
Yeah, and why couldn't he have just like taken pictures from another part of the building or whatever?
It's so weird.
It's such a simple fix.
Yeah, exactly. It is a simple fix, which is why it irritates the fuck out of me.
Mm-hmm. It's like, how could you make this movie and not think of that? Like it's Detective 101. Like you don't need to go to school to be like, where were these pictures taken from? Maybe we can gather some evidence.
Not
here.
even where the pictures are taken from, but already just raised the question of, who took these pictures. It's like, no, we're not going to investigate that at all. We see the penguin.
You know what? Let's just go. Let's just keep going down the line. What are these pictures? When are these pictures?
Why are these pictures?
Why are these pictures? So yeah. Then so now we've got the Iceberg Lounge with Batman coming through, and
I would like to take a moment to state this. I haven't figured out how we're going to do the giveaway yet, but in honor of this, I actually have this from my personal collection. This is the debut issue of the Iceberg Lounge that will be going out to somebody. So
yes, sir.
That's the first appearance of the Iceberg Lounge. It will be going out. It's probably going to be something to do with the re-upload, but we'll figure it out for there.
We'll see. But yeah, just before moving on to the Iceberg Lounge, I think we'll do a couple of super chats. So
yeah, let's get those out.
So Dark Hour, you take this one.
Waylon Basevitz, my favorite super chatter in all of the YouTube realm. Anyone want to buy my laser pointer butt plug? Is it used?
Oh,
that's
no.
If it's used, I do not want it.
Then we've got Cannoli Sasquatch. Congrats on the new show. Thank you, Cannoli.
Thanks, Cannoli. And he'll be on eventually. I think we've booked him for one of the.
We've booked him pretty soon, probably in the next 2 shows. So yeah.
Okay.
Then we've got a Blue Collar Loser for $5.
Hey.
First Dark Hour super chat. Love the Barbie video, but Cynic's Barbie review was awesome. Pattinson was okay. I hope we see less moping as Bruce. Yep, I hope we do too.
I think that's the lesson learned at the end of the movie. He needs to be more.
Yay, Fiona's a member.
Vengeful bitch.
And yeah, thank you, Fiona. So yeah, all right. Now
I'll unstar those. That way we can move on.
And then so now we've got the twins in front of the Iceberg Lounge, and they're blocking Batman basically, who shows up, as Batman, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
I don't know why people complained about that. I thought it was fucking awesome.
Well,
he would just knock on the door like, "I'm Batman, bitch. I'm gonna beat you."
Do you have it would have been great if they would have been like, "Do you have a reservation?" You'd been like, "Yeah." It's like, "What's it under?" Vengeance.
And they call him Mr. Vengeance the entire movie after this too. So
yeah, they make fun of it though.
Does he even have the name Batman yet?
I guess. I mean, it's a huge bat signal in the sky. It's the shape of a bat.
I know, but well, that's the symbol of vengeance. I don't know, because does anyone even call him Batman or Bats yet?
I
don't remember.
I think the closest thing I remember is Penguin going when they're like the rat with wings. He's like, "That sounds like a bat," and points at him. So that's the closest thing I can think of.
That's probably it.
But yeah, I guess maybe he might not have the name yet. At least they didn't go with the theme of so they went originally it was obviously they were Batman, then they went with the Dark Knight. They could have easily gone with the Caped Crusader for the name of this movie, and I do not think that would have went over well.
It's too
on the nose.
Light.
Yeah,
it's too light. Yeah. It's too childish. Yeah,
they could have just called it Vengeance, and then people would have had. And then can you imagine that they just market it without any Batman?
That'd be badass.
Anything. Oh yeah, this is Vengeance, and you show up and it's an actual Batman movie.
When they went with the Dark Knight, 15 years ago, that was ballsy to not have Batman in the title.
I mean, it did help that
we just know it now.
It did help that it was a sequel. So and they did leave on quite the if you recall with Batman Begins, they left right at the end there with the Joker card. So people were already pretty hyped for the sequel to that. I mean that movie essentially created the you got to see this right now hype for things, because I remember the Dark Knight midnight showings were sold out on the second day.
Oof. Yeah, I bought it my tickets 2-3 months in advance.
Yeah, I ended up going to a midnight show the second day and it was sold out. It was
damn.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean by the second. Say again.
I drove from Maine to Massachusetts to watch it in IMAX because we didn't have one yet. Yeah,
man, I didn't even have a cinema.
In fairness, there's a lot of things that Maine doesn't have yet. So,
well, they do now. We have all kinds of stuff now.
At that point, there were sections that didn't have running water. Still, I think at that point, back 15 years ago.
You guys don't have a clue about my home state, so let's move on. Mocking Maine, thank you.
You're the one who told me there's extremely rural areas that are basically.
Oh, there are.
Yeah, so I was just quoting what you were telling me about certain.
Oh, my
areas of-
hometown got a stoplight for the first time a few years ago.
Oh wow.
Its first stoplight. It's not even one of those ones where you really stop. It's just flashing to let you know. Like,
Yeah,
hey,
so
slow down.
I wasn't actually saying anything about anything that you didn't tell me. That there's like sections of it that have like no modern anything in them.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was gonna ask what you guys thought of him entering the club, and did you think it was kind of like a homage to The Dark Knight when he did this? And if so, which one is better?
I think this one's better because the Dark Knight scene is really fast. It just kind of comes and goes and so
choppy.
It's
and
choppy,
Just like
yeah.
everything Nolan does.
Fucking choppy, man.
Yeah.
And
But-
yeah, this one it's great. I like it, and plus, it serves a purpose. Because at first, when I was watching this scene, before seeing where it led up to, I was thinking, why doesn't he just enter here as Bruce Wayne? You're probably easier to get into. But considering what I know now, with what his ultimate goal, why he entered the club, it's better for him to just barge in, make a scene.
Mhm.
So yeah,
I mean, I think he enters this club multiple times. So like I think if he would have they had to make it a little unique each time. Because it would have been repetitive if I think he goes in the club 3 times. And
yes.
So if they would have done the same thing more than once, I think people would have been like, why didn't you just combine those 2 scenes basically?
It's true.
Especially in a 3-hour movie where people are already kind of like, hey, this could have been shortened. You have to make it make a point that they were in there.
Yep, it's true. Here is actually one. I think that he gets shot with a shotgun, if I'm not mistaken, in the back.
Yeah, a couple of times that happens actually.
So yeah, so here he gets shot in the back, and it's not really point blank range. So it's on the sides over here on the right side. The guy is shooting from there, and he hits him, and he basically doesn't even flinch. All he does was look back, and just compare that to the rest of the movie where he basically gets shot and still doesn't flinch whatsoever. Kinetic energy doesn't
armor
fucking
though,
exist.
like that's my problem with the armor. Like I understand like taking a shot like that once and surviving, but his armor would slowly start to wear down. Like, the reason why like body armor can only be used once is because if it takes a hit, it's now compromised.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. I don't know. Maybe he has more than one suit. They just don't show it, but I'm not sure.
But still, you have the force of the bullet. That
would break every bone that it hit. Like no matter what.
He'd be blue. His entire body would be blue every day that he wakes up. Basically.
Yeah.
That was my main issue. That
he doesn't care about that sort of thing, though.
Yeah, he likes the pain. He lives in it, And so yeah, this is our first introduction to Penguin, which is.
I found it funny. So I was in my research. I don't know if any of you heard this story, but he went into a Starbucks in makeup to see if anybody could realize who he was, and absolutely no one knew who he was. Not only did they not go, oh look, that's the Penguin from the upcoming movie. They had no idea that it was Colin Farrell.
Yeah, this is the best fat suit I've ever seen. It's amazing.
It is. I think the thing is that it's good because you can tell that. For me, what I like about this part is you can tell that the actor has completely disappeared behind the role, which I think we lack a bit nowadays. You don't really see actors disappearing behind the roles. We see, for example, Tom Cruise is the easiest example because Tom Cruise basically plays a different variation of Tom Cruise in every movie he's in. And we have more and more actors like that nowadays. So to see something like this, and especially his accent, because his original accent, I'm not too sure where he's from, but I think it's
Colin Farrell. He's from Scotland, isn't he?
Yeah, so I think he has a Cockney accent.
He's Irish, I believe.
There we go. Yeah, so he has the Irish accent, heavy Irish accent too. So just
he's from Castleknock, Ireland. That's a hell of a name. I like that name.
Castleknock, Ireland. So yeah, it's great. What did you guys think of Penguin himself?
Oh, I thought it was fantastic and brilliant casting too. I'm not a particular Colin Farrell fan. One of his movies is one of my favorites ever, which is Seven Psychopaths, but that's besides the point. He really fell into this character and just became Penguin. He's unrecognizable both appearance wise and in his voice. You just don't even. If you didn't tell anyone that was Colin Farrell, you'd have no clue, and you wouldn't even. I don't even think you'd be able to convince anyone that that's just not an actor. That no fat suit, no anything. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's some of the best prosthesis I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think it's better than like Brendan Fraser in The Whale. I think this looks better than that.
And like I said, like he literally like went and tested whether people could see if he was if they could recognize him in that Starbucks, and like it no one knew. They just thought he was a dude with scars on his face. That's all.
Golden Age, what do you think about this version of the Penguin?
Well, no, I absolutely love this version, and there's something about this version of the Penguin. I can't quite pinpoint exactly what it is, but there's something about him that makes it feel like he's just been ripped right out of a Scorsese movie, like that type of gangster character. And I mean, if you look at the previous versions of Penguin, if you look at something like the Gotham show, bit of a joke. If you look at something like Batman Returns, that is definitely supposed to be a unique take. But this one perfectly does showcase that sort of gangster type character, and again, he feels like a stereotypical mob boss without being too stereotypical, if that kind of makes sense. He does he does fall into that sort of archetype. So the way this character, of course, with all the makeup, just perfectly constructs this crime boss, and you do actually feel that is the case with this version.
They take it back. So like one of the things that's kind of happened to Penguin over the years, and especially with the Batman Returns, he's kind of been flanderized in like a weird way, where originally he was the Penguin because it's like he wore suits and it was like the tails of like tuxedos and stuff are reminiscent of a Penguin, but he was always just a gangster really early on, and then at some point he became an actual Penguin. Like at some point they were like, hey, no, he eats raw fish and like has 3 fingers. Like it doesn't make any sense. And so like this was almost like kind of dragging it back to more like the base model of Penguin, which was pretty cool.
And I disagree with you, Melvin.
What did he say?
Yeah, I gotta disagree too.
Yep.
I mean, I guess it depends on what you think of the Penguin, because just like Dark Hour was saying, there's like
different
multiple variants of the Penguin now at this point. There's the one that's kind of like a real penguin, and then there's like the mismatch that you get in the PlayStation games. That's like gangster and kind of penguinish.
They make him a really tiny dude with a bit of the penguin stuff.
But like, I'll hold up the comic I was holding before. Like he doesn't he's literally just like a gangster there. He doesn't have really. I mean, he doesn't have like penguin. He has 4 fingers. He doesn't have flippers.
He doesn't have penguin DNA inside.
Yeah, like he doesn't. Yeah, he's not like some weird.
He doesn't bleed black.
Yeah. Like I don't think that there's I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing that there's an interpretation of that, but that would have never worked for this. That would people would have been like, that would have immediately, because what are we, about a quarter of the way in the movie right about now, maybe 20%, and that would have immediately took people right out of the film, like
for sure. So I really wonder how they're gonna do for example, they said that they might want to. Matt Reeves is very interested in adapting maybe Mr. Freeze, so I'd like to see how he could be incorporated in this world.
Mr. Freeze is probably the most cartoony villain that
he is, and I heard Clayface also, which I'm just like, atmosphere-wise, I can see these characters, but at the same time, the way it's grounded, I'm just like, how the hell are you going to do this?
Yeah,
Clayface, I could see Mr. Freeze, but Clayface is completely no.
I mean, if you're going to do Mr. Freeze and you want to ground him, you have to do someone who just utilizes a lot of devices that are cold-based, like, and has like torture methods that are cold, like, utilize cold.
It would be cool to see a grounded version of Mr. Freeze, like what that would mean.
Well,
like you couldn't have the guy who was half snowman. Like it wouldn't work.
Yeah, right. You couldn't legit have a dude with like the dome on his head to keep him cold. And
well, yeah, I mean, they could go back, because like that version of Mr. Freeze really didn't appear until the cartoon.
Yeah,
like the original version of Mr. Freeze had like it's like before I don't even really remember, but I know that he was different. I can't even give you the details on it because that was so long ago at this point that he's been completely usurped by the more modern interpretation. You can't even like
this shot right here is a beautiful mix of the Long Halloween and the opening of that comic, when Batman interrupts Catwoman burglarizing a place and the windows and everything, and the color palette of Batman Year One, which is very like black and yellows. I love this. It's so cool that like you can do an interpretation of the same source material, because I made a video where I'm comparing the Dark Knight and the Batman and how they utilize the same source materials in the comics,
black
but
and yellow.
they came up with different results. It's
might as well play into my gimmick.
Yeah.
Where am I gonna put this then? That's the problem, is every time I pull out like a comic or a book to show on one of these shows, it just ends up not back on the shelf. I just have piles next to me now.
And so yeah, story-wise, we had when Batman met Penguin, he saw Selina Kyle basically, and so he followed her home because she took a particular interest in the blackmail pictures that we had seen, and so he followed her home and she talked to her friend Annika. And right now we have Catwoman inside the mayor's place, the mayor that was killed, and she's taking the passport of Annika, her friend, so that she can leave the country, basically, or Gotham, I guess.
I would assume that she would want to leave the country. You don't need a passport to leave a city.
Yeah,
that would be some crazy shit. If like to leave your hometown, you have to have a passport. but
and yeah.
The if anything, so I don't dislike the story, the whole Catwoman subplot. I just think that they may have been able to get away with leaving this out. That's like the one story I think that they probably could have maybe skirted away from.
How would you have integrated Catwoman? I mean, not that you're wrong or anything. Just like, can you think of ways to integrate her?
I mean, I'm not even sure if she's really required for this movie. I mean, they could have easily made one of his objectives being to find someone who's gone missing without having the sub like plot of Catwoman being connected to that person.
But Catwoman is the daughter of
they could have saved that. They could have saved that for the another movie. I know that he ends up, spoiler alert, he ends up dying, but but in the comics she doesn't actually find out that she's his daughter until after he's dead. So that's like there's a whole. So like I know that they took a lot of inspiration from Long Halloween, and he dies in that. And also spoiler alert for like a 25-year-old comic book, just in case anyone hasn't read it. But there's a whole sub story that a lot of people haven't read called Catwoman When in Rome, where she goes to find like birth records and stuff and find out who she is in Italy. And so like
that's part of the Jeff Loeb Tim Sale like trilogy, right?
It's like the forgotten section of it. And so like, not saying I dislike this interpretation of Catwoman, the storyline itself. I just think if you were trying to chisel out some time from the movie, you may have been able to leave this out.
So we got Andrew saying that
you could have absorbed what was going on in this into other aspects of the film.
I think you could have left this in and legit left out the flooding.
Oh, for sure.
Well, yeah, part. That too. Like, I mean, like, there's a couple of ways you could have did it.
I think he could have still learned that because I do love what they did with it, which is, he was showing Gotham that he can be a hero, and he needs to be more, and he learns that lesson. I really did love that. But I also thought that he could have learned that after the capture of Riddler without requiring the flood or anything. So you could have left out like fucking 35 minutes of this movie, kept this in, and have that be the finale where Falcone dies in Riddler's comp.
John Turturro is the guy's name that plays.
From Transformers. That's where I knew him from. Growing
up. Transformers and anger management.
Secret Window, baby.
Ooh.
Yeah, he's one of those guys who like he's sort of like ethnically like ambiguous. So like
he is
like roles like
yeah, he really is.
Like I know he's played like Middle Eastern people. He's played Italians. Like he's just all over the board. Actually,
he played some dude from Mississippi.
Yeah, actually, that reminds me. One of the things I thought of as soon as I saw, because this is Zoë Kravitz, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Has there been a more race swapped character in the history of characters than Catwoman? She's been played by, so it was like white, black, white, black, white, white, black. Like
Mm.
it's like at this point, so it's like
They,
white,
they've
black,
never,
and Jewish.
they never
in
made
it.
her.
So it's like,
They never made her Asian, you know. So
yeah. No, I'm saying like they can't, like it's a character that has been swapped back and forth more than I think I've ever seen over the
it
course
might
of
be
the
her.
probably.
Yeah, because it was, if you go back, I don't remember all the actresses, but there was 3 different actresses who played her in the old Batman show, and one of them was Eartha Kitt, and I don't remember the other 2's name off the top of my head, but it was like 2 of them were white, 1 of them was black, and then they had obviously Halle Berry, who wasn't technically the same Catwoman.
Oh
but
yeah, I forgot.
She was
then they
basically
had
a real
yeah,
cat.
yeah, and then they
Yeah.
had name is escaping me all of a sudden from Dark Knight Rises.
Selina
Anne
Kyle,
Hathaway.
Anne
Anne Hathaway. So it's like they've and obviously she was white in Batman Returns. So they've kind of and Zoë Kravitz is both.
She is.
So they've flip-flopped her back and forth, but like so many times, it's actually pretty impressive.
Zoe's like me. I see my people represented on screen. Yay!
Yes, in more ways than one, ironically enough. Are you talking about your cat aspect of your life, or are you talking about your mixed race aspect of your life?
Both, technically. It works well. But yeah,
I thought she did a good job, though. Like I'm not like I know I said like I think they could have left it out, but I think she did a good job.
I think she did great too. I don't know anything about Zoe Kravitz. Apparently, I saw someone say that she's like some sort of activist. All I know is in this movie, she is really fucking hot.
Yes,
she's good
That's all I
looking.
know.
Yeah. What do you guys
She's a
think about
good-looking woman.
her costume? I would say
the costume from the neck down is good.
Yep.
They
it
really
makes
need to
sense.
work on the mask, though.
Yeah, I felt like well, Matt Reeves in the commentary was saying like this is not Catwoman yet. Like it's the ski mask is supposed to hint at it with a little bit of ears, but the rest is a motorcycle suit and stuff.
Yeah.
So like she is not fully realized yet.
Though. She did attach claws to the gloves, so like she's already going that, and it kind of plays off of what you said earlier about Batman. It's like, is he Batman yet, or is he just is Batman emerging? So it could kind of be like parallel storylines of like Catwoman becoming Catwoman and Batman becoming Batman. So,
which would have been great if they had removed that fucking flood thing at the 3rd act.
4th act. I'm calling that the 4th act.
the
fourth act. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
mean, you could have had this great storyline of just her discovering. Well, maybe with the thing about Falcone and all of that with her father, you could have had all of that just be the end of the movie, because it would make such personal stakes and such personal relationships, and all you do is focus on the dialogue and the characters after that. You don't really focus on the plot. The plot would basically write itself at that point. But no, we needed Gotham underwater because
it felt like it was a almost studio mandated, like you got to have a big action scene for the end.
Well, I actually think it is that.
I wouldn't be surprised if they were like
mandated the Batmobile too, which they integrated incredibly though. That's like one of my favorite sections of the movie. They made the Batmobile a character, but Matt Reeves said like that was a studio requirement too. Was like he had to have the Batmobile in the movie.
Yeah, that's true.
I forgot what I was going to say.
So
just...
no. But so it could have, the 4th act could have been kind of a studio requirement, and he nailed one with the Batmobile. Didn't necessarily nail it with the finale.
Yeah,
but it is what it is. As a whole, I thought the movie's just fucking great.
At least they didn't have some. I will say this about the flooding scene. At least they didn't have some sort of cheesy joke about how like cats hate water or something. Like,
oh, it could have been way worse.
Yeah, they could have been like
things I like about that scene. So
it's true. But yeah, Golden Age. What do you think about Selina Kyle from the Batman?
Well, talking of worse, Zoe Kravitz drinking milk from a bowl as part of the marketing.
No.
Yeah, not a good look. That didn't appeal to me that much. But in terms of her character in the film, I thought she did a great job in it. Again, maybe it could have worked without her, but I thought she was an okay addition. I didn't feel like she overstayed her welcome in any way. I thought she, complemented Batman in many ways. And I just hope that we get to see more of her character develop.
Do you guys think
obviously
she'll
in the
be back for
subsequent
the
films?
sequel?
Oh, she'll be back.
Yeah,
for number 2?
I wouldn't be shocked if she's like the secondary, like the they'll be like almost co-leads in the second one.
Which I would be fine with. Like, I love Batman and Catwoman stories.
Oh, well, there we go. Iceman, the ad was for you, you know?
Iceman, I'm with you, dude. That's
no.
I will
Make
say
it
this:
stop.
he hasn't appeared yet. We have mentioned Carmine Falcone a couple of times. I do wish that there was a little bit more emphasis on him, in terms of, because like he almost comes off as like so like not even secondary, like third.
Well, there's more emphasis on the Maroni family, because you hear the Maroni family way more than you hear Carmine Falcone.
Yeah.
So
and they're intrinsically locked together. So
yeah, basically. And so in the story we've got Batman and Catwoman. Batman comes to meet Catwoman. She tells him the story about Annika, but on TV we see that so this was one of the commissioner. So this was the GCPD commissioner that was murdered. And so he was murdered with rats, basically.
Yes.
I forget. There is another movie where someone else is murdered that same way, but I don't remember the name. It traumatized me as a kid. Yeah, but it was.
Well, there's like an old torture method which is very similar to that, where it was like you heat a bucket with like rats in it, and they're gonna flee from the heat. I don't exactly know what the method was to get them to force him to eat the face here, because like there must have been something that was scaring them. Because they generally aren't just going to eat something for the sake because you told them to.
Yeah, basically.
Rats, like.
Yeah,
so it's like a Saw level villainy stuff.
Yeah,
yeah.
I did not like that they put it on camera, because it just reminded like a little too much of Heath Ledger's Joker and what he did. I thought there would be another way to showcase that kind of stuff.
Well, it's kind of like how you always you brought up Seven a couple times. One of the most like powerful scenes in Seven is when they go after they go into like the prostitution den, and you don't actually see the aftermath. You just see a picture of the item that was used to murder somebody.
Oh yeah.
No, I mean about like actually showing it on TV like they were.
Okay. I'm sorry. I thought
it was making the Riddler a little too much like Heath Ledger's Joker by having him on TV and talking to the phone, talking to the camera. I thought it was a little too much there.
Yeah, and then after that we just see him like, "Hey guys, how are you?" It's like, oh, come on, man. And so so now we've got Batman is sending in Selina Kyle to the Iceberg Lounge again, but they're not going to the Iceberg Lounge per se. They're going to 44 Below, which is basically the club under, where all the
the club within the club, as she says.
Yeah. So this, for example, this guy is a GCPD officer. Then she meets multiple district attorneys, basically half of the DA's office in the club. So this guy, one of our main players, who is Gil Coulson, that's his name.
This guy looks like a DA too. Like, I don't think this is an actor. I think this was a legitimate like DA.
He is an actor. I've seen him in many things, but
I don't know what John McEnroe, is that John McEnroe? Somebody. Yeah, I guess he kind of looks a little like John McEnroe too.
And so so then after that we've got the Catwoman basically chatting him up, and he reveals that there's a rat basically, and he's the one that helped take out the Maroni crime family.
So here's a problem I have. Like most of the movie is pretty good with this kind of stuff, but that scene kind of just like, I get that he's like high out of his mind.
Yeah.
But like he just gives that information out way too easily.
Especially around she's just like, all of the other
like, what do you know?
DAs.
Yeah, it's like she's like, what do you know about that? And then everyone's like, hey, shut the fuck up. And then he's like, no. I have to explain
this random ass woman,
this whole situation. And it's like, that was like probably my one problem with it, was this particular like stretch.
It felt a little contrived, as it were.
Yeah. Like if you're in, not only do you have information that is very highly sensitive, you're in a location that you probably don't want to just be spouting things out to random people.
Yeah.
Like, I know that they're all kind of criminal types down there, but they might not all necessarily know exactly what everybody knows. So like, this guy is basically a moron. I don't know how he got through law school. It's like,
And then so then you've got Catwoman, who basically leaves the club angry at Bruce Wayne because she wanted to find out, because what the other girl that was with the DAs mentioned that if they spoke about something like this, then they disappear, like the Russian girl who is Catwoman's girlfriend, basically. So instead of keeping up with the DA like Batman says, she runs and tries to track down her own lead to find out who killed her girlfriend. And so, yeah, that leads her outside, and the DA follows her outside, and he enters his car without checking the back seat like a dumbass, and he gets got, as they say.
Well, I
He
mean,
definitely gets got.
realistically, how many people
Me,
you go up and just check the backseat of your car? I mean, I drive a Mini Cooper. If someone was trying to like get the drop on me in my car, the phrase "excuse me" would have to be like uttered somewhere at that point. They'd have to be like, "Hey, excuse me, do you mind if I get in position to get out behind you?" But like,
I have a mini flashlight tied to my keychain specifically just to look at my boot and my backseat.
How often? Now here's a secondary question based on that. How often do you walk out of a club at 4 a.m, high off your ass, and check your back of your car?
Listen, man. Listen. I only take what we call the Reverend Green, and so I'm pretty stable.
He's like, I'm on that. He's like, I'm a cat. I'm busy knocking over trash cans at 4 a.m. I don't need to.
But I always check it, man. Like, for example, when I was at the cinema last time, once I go into the underground parking, I mean, you're always, I don't know, I magically end up always alone in that underground parking late at night too. So my surroundings are like my senses are so heightened.
I can just imagine you're just like you parked your car on street level, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to my car, and you like put your key in, and all of a sudden you're just in an underground parking structure. Like, how did this happen?
But seriously, man, like I always check my backseat. You never know. I think movies have scared me too much of backseats. And movies have scared me too much of underground parking levels because, Drag Me to Hell, that scared the fuck out of me. You've got a grandma in your backseat and you've got the underground parking level, so it's like 2 in 1. But yeah. So basically he gets kidnapped by the Riddler, and I think that it's some interesting cinematography here because when you see him, the Riddler actually pop up and everything is completely the focus is pulled, so you don't actually see what's going on except for the blue light that turns on when Riddler straps the bomb to his neck, basically.
This was something I meant to highlight before, but it's not too like it would make sense that a lot of like those powerful people would be there at the same time. It's like especially if that's their like place to cut loose.
Yeah, that didn't bother me at all. The biggest issue was what we talked about, which is just like, why the fuck are you spilling the beans to this random chick? Because the movie needs you to. It's the only reason right now.
Yeah, I mean that's one of those like minor complaints that I have, where it's like I was able to ignore it because I could like in my head justify he's not in the right state of mind. Like it's a little contrived, but I'll let that slide because there's not that many of them.
It's explainable. But to this point, the biggest issue I have is the first thing we complained about, which is the photos and why you wouldn't check that location. So far, you can kind of like headcanon away why other things happened, but not that one.
But the problem with this one would be that does the rest of the plot happen the way it's supposed to if, this guy didn't spill the beans and Batman heard him?
I'm sorry, say your question one more time.
So would the rest of the plot happen the same way if the guy hadn't told Selina Kyle all of that in the club?
I mean, I don't know if it would have. It's like he might have still been able to gather enough information by the group of people who were there. Plus, he gets a majority of what he needs from the interaction that he has with him in a couple scenes from now.
Yeah.
So I think he could have probably still pieced a lot of it together based on just who was in the club.
I see what you mean.
Because like that information is still kind of cryptic. Still, it's like he didn't say a name. He just said, there's a rat. He would have found that out either way through the
Riddlers El Rata Alada,
Rata Alada.
So So yeah, I mean, I think it's fine, but it doesn't. So since it doesn't really affect the plot that much, I can accept it easily. But then yeah, so then we've got the so he basically meets Jim Gordon. He tells him there's a rat. Then we've got the skyline, which was actually shot in the volume, as they call it. So it's the volume, the one that they use for the Mandalorian and all of that stuff, is basically just huge LED lights.
Oh yes, I actually have a video of myself on one of those sets. It's actually pretty. It's impressive.
It's amazing. I've seen the behind the scenes of this. It looks incredible.
I feel like the Batman is basically one of the only things to have used it properly to the point where you don't realize that they're in the volume, actually.
Mm-hmm. Those are, I will tell you one thing, those get extremely hot, though. Because
for sure. The lights.
It's got to be way better than a green screen, though, for everyone involved. Like, you're really shooting something, and the actors actually have something to react to and interact with in a way. I feel like it's the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Then so now we've got Bruce Wayne getting ready for the funeral of the mayor. He's going to make an appearance, and he's here with his 2007 haircut.
His Warped Tour haircut.
Yeah. And so I like the scene because it's pretty much just him and Alfred conversating, to the point where Alfred even offers him his cufflinks, because he's like, you've got to take care of yourself, you've got to look good. You're still representing the Wayne family. You can't go out there basically brooding like Batman. You have to be Bruce Wayne. You have to have that distinction.
So I just want to bring up, I know that Cynic has to go because he's got to be a professional YouTuber and go watch a shitty movie so other people don't have to. So if you want to if there's any like last little bit you want to throw out there before you head out.
The Batman is my favorite Batman movie. There, it's official.
Really?
No, officially, it is. Yeah.
All right.
It is.
So yeah, I mean, we'll obviously, we'll have you back on, and I'll be on your channel, and we're all four of us have appeared on each other's stuff. So try your best to enjoy the TMNT thing.
I'm gonna get popcorn, so I always enjoy popcorn. That's the best part of the movie going experience.
Yeah, a lot of butter on your popcorn too,
and salt.
Oh.
I've actually gotten to the point where I can't really I'm like, man, I'm getting old. If I have too much of the salt on the popcorn, my throat starts to close up. I'm just like, I think my body has slowly built up an intolerance to salt from me just annihilating things with salt my whole life. So but once again, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for coming, man. You want to shout out anything that you're working on before you leave?
We want to get you a little exposure. Just a little.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I was discussing with Bagface earlier of like what the plan is. So I don't even know yet what I'm going to work on. We're
definitely hitting a kind of a weird spot right now where like there's going to slow down in the movies coming out. There's
everything's delayed
shows.
too.
Everything's going to be delayed, so it's going to be interesting for a little while.
I was making a list of like video essays to do. Those are honestly more fun than movie reviews. So
that's what I've actually have like a small list of a couple that I put on the back burner while all the movies were coming out that I'm looking forward to doing. So well, we'll see where that goes. I mean, you always put out great content. You just went over 100,000 subscribers, which is fucking awesome. If I don't see that plaque in the background, as soon as you get it, I'm
waiting on YouTube. They have to email me. So yeah.
All right.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me. Cheers, guys. Enjoy.
Later.
See ya.
Okay, so now that he's gone, we can have the real conversation. We all hated this movie, damn. No, I'm just joking.
And so we've got the conversation with Alfred, which is pretty cool, about the cufflinks and talking to him about Wayne. And so I have a problem here because, well, it's weird because I think that it works in context of the movie, but I do find it to be some sort of anomaly. For me, it's weird, so it's basically the Bruce Wayne seems more like the Batman than he does Wayne, and this isn't a personality thing. I mean, in the way of the mystique behind his appearances. So for example, we see the Batman appear in front of people, they're just like, it's the Batman. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's this guy. It's just, or who are you? You're a dude dressed in a bat suit. But then once Wayne appears, they're like, oh my god, it's Bruce Wayne. It's like,
That's always been how they did Batman movies, though. Like, if you recall,
the distinction is that here they say, oh my god, it's Bruce Wayne, because it's as if it's the first time they've seen him in 10 years. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
Not because it is Bruce Wayne himself, but it's the
Well,
fact that
that's kind of the implication that he hasn't really gotten out that much over because he's essentially a recluse. That's basically the implication there.
Yeah.
Since I'm the only one with video now, I'm going to switch to my funny little avatar, so that way we all match. Hello.
Got the thumbs up, Dark Hour.
Yeah, thumbs up. Yeah, but yeah, if I'm the only person with not the avatar, I'll switch to the avatar going forward. But I will say this about this whole sequence that you're talking about, like them being surprised. It kind of makes sense with some of the stuff he says later on. He like, or maybe it was even before this actually, when Alfred's like, you still need to keep up appearances. We have these people you have to meet and stuff. And he's like, I don't care about that. It's like, yes, but you need to, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So and then after that we finally meet Carmine Falcone, John Turturro.
It's weird because I always pronounced it Carmine Falcone.
Falcone,
when I read it in the comics, but it seems like Falcone is the way they want to pronounce it.
Yeah, Falcone. I mean, maybe it sounds more like a mob boss. That's why they want to say it that way instead of Falcone. So, Golden Age, what do you think of Carmine in this movie? Did you like him?
I did. I do have to say, though, I kind of do prefer the version from Batman Begins. In a way. Again, I wouldn't really say there's a lot to work with in this movie with this particular character, but for what we do see of him, I think, he's pretty decent, but I wouldn't say that my feelings are strong, positively or negatively about this iteration.
Yeah. What do you think about Turturro's performance?
Well, I think that his performance was good, though. Even though I don't think that he had a lot of material to necessarily work with, because he ain't the main focus of this movie, obviously. But I think what we did get of him was pretty good, and I think that's what Reeves did very well with this movie in particular. He did cast a lot of people that at first glance, or perhaps when we heard about the casting announcements, we thought, I don't know if this will work, but actually they did surprise us.
It's true. So we've got Hostman here that says, I really hate how antisocial the film portrays Bruce, both in the comics and other films. He understood the importance of keeping up good public image and actually used his money for the city. Yeah, but I think that it falls into what the movie is trying to do, of him becoming that Bruce Wayne at the same time of becoming that Batman, learning how to help people.
I feel like the movie was critiquing Bruce Wayne. It was trying to say that this is what he does need to become. I mean, characters are saying this all the time. I mean, when he enters this building, he has a chat with a woman, and she says, you're not really doing a lot for your city, for the city. Your parents did a lot. Why aren't you doing a lot? So they are making that a point for which he does have to address, and as we'll see at the end of this movie, but also going forward in the series.
Yep. Then so now we've got the funeral basically, and then we have the car that pops up, and we have Gil Coulson.
The way that this car just enters is like insane. He's just like, first of all, I want to know how the hell he even got up there. Like,
I see what you mean.
Yeah, he like comes through like the skylight with the car. It's like, how did you even like? There must have been a way that like he came through like a road up top. It doesn't make any sense to me, but
it's super easy, barely an inconvenience.
Yeah, that's how they have to do it, But I'm happy that they made it practically, at least. It was an actual practical car with this huge thing that they had. This entire set was just a big warehouse that they built. So basically, they had everything that they could tear down. And it's pretty cool. And the exterior, they used a place in Liverpool. As I said before, they filmed a lot of the exterior shots for the places in Liverpool. And so now you have Gil Coulson basically just waiting for the Batman to arrive because he's got.
I guess Toronto wasn't available because that's usually where they film cityscapes.
It's
Toronto.
true. It's true. They film a lot in Canada.
Yeah, because Toronto kind of looks like a small New York City with a way smaller population, so they can get away with a lot more there.
That's true.
Which is ironic when you think about the way Canada is. If Vex is still watching out there, then she could tell us more about Canada.
And then, so now you've got the Riddler basically talking on the phone with the Batman, and he's giving him the riddles, which I actually like how it is. Go ahead.
I was gonna say the one thing I don't like about this interpretation of the riddle, I think he gets a little too screamy. He gets a little too yelly at certain points where he's just like kind of just over the top yelling for the sake of yelling.
That's what you get when you cast Paul Dano, basically.
Yeah. Whereas, like, to me, the Riddler has always kind of been more calm, cool, collected because he's trying to it's a little weird. He kind of is taking some like hints from the Joker, so to say.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that he's way too screamy for what he comes across, especially considering the way that he was introduced in the intro, like the first time we see him, and then you just see him screaming around and stuff like that. It just doesn't match with what we were introduced as. So it can be jarring, and it can maybe push you out of the movie a bit.
Here, Waylon Bucephus just sent us a super chat. I want to get a little clarity on what he's saying though, because he doesn't like the new mayor character for $1.99. By the way, he doesn't like the new mayor character. Way too clean. Do you mean the woman?
Yeah, the
character?
black woman. I think
black woman. Because the actual mayor is dead, so I'm assuming he means the black woman. Yeah, the woman who was running against him.
Yeah, I think so. And then so now we've got the Riddler basically. I actually like this line from the guy that has the bomb strapped to him. He says, so you've got the Batman. So you've got the Riddler asking, how much does it cost to lie? And so he says 10 grams not to 10
G's.
Yeah, 10 G's not to prosecute certain cases. And then
10 G's a month. So that translates to about 120,000 extra.
Yeah, a year. And then,
so Waylon Bucephus did confirm, by the way, that's what he was talking about. If I'm interpreting his question correctly, meaning like too clean cut and like too like, oh, I'm doing it for the sake of the people. Unfortunately, that's just kind of how those characters usually get written. It sucks. Sometimes you get a character is a little too on the nose with like being I don't want to say virtue signaling because she wasn't really throwing out like, oh, well, we got to do it for this group and that group. She wasn't doing like that kind of stuff.
No.
But sometimes the writing for like characters that are supposed to be virtuous tends to be a little on the nose and then sometimes almost a parody level of it.
Well, so in this one, and plus she doesn't have that much to work with throughout the entire movie. So you're basically just having a cardboard cutout of that standard, the mayor that's coming to change how the city works. That's it. That type of politician. And it doesn't do anything to try and evolve that at all, even at the end, which I think is completely lackluster.
So can you just like, what do you mean by that? Like, just go a little bit more in detail what you're saying.
Well, I feel like it's lackluster what they did to her character. For example, she's just the stereotypical mayor that's gonna come in that wants to change Gotham to make it better and prosperous.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is there's not much to work with there because the backdrop of it being with a bunch of people who are hyper corrupt from the police all the way up to the existing administration. No matter what they do with that kind of character, they're going to come off as too squeaky clean.
Yep.
So I don't think that it was the worst example I've ever seen of somebody being super like too clean and too about fixing things. But it does clash with a lot of what's going on around.
Yeah. Golden Age, what do you think about this the scene with the bomb and how they try and defuse the situation?
By the way, Golden, you can just shout out whatever. You don't gotta wait for us to ask you.
Yeah.
Well, what I would say is I've always thought it was a bit stupid of Batman to stand so close to this bomb, even when it's around 2 seconds like before detonation. That kind of bothers me a bit. I mean, I know he's dedicated to what he's doing, but I feel like he would have that self-awareness to sort of step back a little bit. But I do think that the reaction that this guy has is very genuine. He does seem like he is like balls out terrified for losing his life. So I think that from that perspective that works. I do like again how Bruce Wayne is trying to work out all this stuff, but again the thing that does bother me is his lack of awareness of the danger around him.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say that again, it's sort of commenting on the character's inability to step back from his work and sort of look at himself. So I suppose from that angle, that works very well. But in terms of the Riddler as well, because I know that you two brought this up, that I think the thing that does sort of take points away, as it were, from the character in this movie is those moments where he does sort of come out of that comfort zone of being calm and collected and just starts making like weird panicky noises as if he's sort of screaming. And there is a scene later on which does highlight that a lot, but again, there are some definitely some faults in this scene. I wouldn't say I hate it, but one thing that we did sort of go past because it's a very small moment is when Bruce Wayne is entering it's a cathedral, right? Is that am I remembering? Yes. So when he enters the cathedral, he sees a little boy sitting down at the front.
It's the mayor's son.
It's the mayor's son, yeah.
And he sort of just glanced over at him, and no dialogue is said from Bruce Wayne's point of view, but you can just know what he's feeling from that angle because, of course, he's been
sitting in that exact seat.
Yeah. So again, it does it in a way which Matt Reeves doesn't have to go back to the classic Wayne murder to sort of convey, the impact that has on the character. It was very subtle. It worked well, and it does give merit to the moment when Batman has to make the decision of whether to go after the Riddler or save this boy, and that works well as well because it's kind of like a what if situation because he's being put in the shoes of the person on the receiving end this time. He was that kid once, but now he's grown up. Yeah. So that complements character very well.
It does.
I just wanted to follow up with Waylon Bacefus's he's referring to the fact that she just openly berates Bruce right up at the funeral. That was a bit like you're in the wrong. This is the wrong place, wrong time to be doing that. I do agree with that 100%.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she does preface by saying she's been trying to reach him for months, but his people say that she's like he's too busy, so this is the only place where she can do it.
Here's something that like it's kind of like turning the trope a little bit of it's usually like a former cop or something that was close to the mob was trying to like clean up stuff. So it's like she does come off as honestly she's a character that I forgot was in the movie from the first time I saw it. And then I even kind of forgot as the movie went along. And apparently Golden is because he's British, he's too polite. just waiting. But like she's a character that if she wasn't in it, I wouldn't even notice, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I think it's only relevant that she's in it now, introduced like through the TV screens and all of that because of what happens at the end, as Cynic said, the fourth act, basically.
Yeah.
And if you had to remove that part of the film, she wouldn't be relevant at all. You could have just had her appear on the news, as running for a new mayor because, well, you have the mayor watching the news at the beginning of the movie, and that would have been pretty much all we needed.
I actually think that it could have been improved by not having her running against the mayor early on and him just being murdered and then having to basically have an emergency, election. Yeah. Rather than, and then her being one of the people who comes forward, like maybe not necessarily already in the thick of the election, but like being, I don't know, like an assembly person or something who was like, we need to have this emergency election and I'm throwing in my hat kind of thing. I think that would have worked a little bit better for her. They could have even like kind of played her off as like an AOC kind of person who had been like sort of a loudmouth on the council.
Yeah.
You know, who like had like a really ideological kind of person that maybe wouldn't have been able to run in another circumstance. I think that could have worked well. But then again, that's a whole nother sub storyline that they would have had to add to an already existingly long movie.
Yeah.
And I mean, and right here, we're getting bogged down in it. So
all right, Iceman, we'll move on.
So you've got
get
the hell out past this.
So the bomb blows up in front of Batman, and you know his chin is still good looking. It's not burnt or anything.
Yeah, they definitely don't follow the 5, 10, 15 rule for explosives on this one. I don't know if you've ever heard that one. I don't remember if it's feet or meters, but it's like if you're within, I think if you're within 5 feet of the explosion of a grenade, it's an instant. It's a for sure kill. If you're within 10 feet, it's a for sure disable, like a maim. If it's 15, it's a for sure injury. He should be completely just destroyed.
Oh, he should be gone right now.
Yeah.
And so
body armor does not stop explosions.
Especially, I mean, even in your face, man, his face is supposed to be at least bruised up a bit. So we've got him waking up basically at the GCPD, and he's surrounded by cops, and this is a pretty cool scene in my opinion. What do you guys think?
This is probably my favorite scene in the whole movie, actually.
And Golden Age, what about you?
I can't perfectly remember this. Do the police officers try and remove his mask, and is that why?
Yes.
Yeah. So again, as I was saying at the beginning with this version of Gordon, it does add a lot of credit to him, because although Gordon doesn't know who this guy is underneath, there is that level of respect there that I don't necessarily know exactly what you're doing, you know, the whole picture, but I do have faith in you and what you're doing, because they are very much similar in many ways. So, and it is one of the moments in the movie where there isn't a lot of, you know, fancy scenery or loads of dialogue. There's no narration, but it's just simple character moment between these two talking, as we can see with all these other characters looking at them, you know, it is very tense in that sense. And when we have the big moment, because I believe this is the moment where Gordon tells him to attack him and then use that as a diversion to escape. Is that correct? Am I remembering that?
I'm not sure that Gordon tells him to attack him. I'm sure that Gordon actually tells him that he needs to find a way together. And then there's the crooked cop that he saw in the below 44 lounge, basically. And so he doesn't want to see. I think that Batman basically punches Gordon after the cop recognizes him inside there with him. And so I think that he does it to protect Gordon so that the cop probably won't try and do anything to him.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion. I think that he was protecting him.
Basically what it is so I rewatched this scene a couple of times because I enjoyed it, but it's hard to hear what they're saying sometimes. Essentially he gives him like a quick map of how to get out of there. And he's like, you know, go down this hallway and then you'll hit this, like if you run straight, you'll hit the stairs kind of thing. And he goes, and he also basically is like, punch me in the face. Like he's, you know, like make it look real. Yeah. And which is funny because later on he's like, you know, he could have pulled that punch. And he's like, I did. But that's the whole thing. It's like, and you can even kind of see it in Gordon's face. He's like bracing for the punch. So he punches him, and now he knows exactly where he has to go to get out.
Yep.
Now, one of the things, the only aspect of this scene I do not like really, well, there's two, but they're the one that these guys get up these stairs, because he goes up about like 9 flights of stairs with his grapnel gun, and they just keep getting up these stairs way too quickly.
But there are other people on the stairs, actually. If you pay close attention when he's going up the grapnel, I thought that you were going to say another issue. My issue with this scene is that they shoot him in the middle of the GCPD building, and, well, there are other people on the floors where, you know, the bullets can go and basically hit them.
Yeah, the fact that they're just firing, like, without any regard for the fact that there's people standing there is very unpolice-like in this.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, they wouldn't just fire into a crowd.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, especially a crowd of their own people. Like, these are like essentially like bureaucrats who work in the building.
Exactly. And so then now he gets to the rooftop and he has his wingsuit that he deploys. And
it's a weird wingsuit too. It's a little strange because it's like we're used to seeing in a lot of Batman movies his cape just kind of takes like a skeletal sort of like shape to it that it holds. This is like legit like a base jumping suit.
It is.
Yeah.
I feel like it's creative in the sense to keep it grounded, because how else would you, if you're trying to make Batman incredibly realistic, how else would you have him fly just with the cape? I don't think that it's quite possible.
No, I don't think so either. And he fails pretty hard in this scene, actually. I mean, I know we can't really play too much of it, but he like deploys his shoot like at a really terrible time and like essentially crashes right into a bus. I
think it's because of the wind, because they were highlighting a bit of how there was a lot of wind, and so he basically there you go, crashes into that thing. He should be dead.
Oh yeah, he at minimum he would have been unconscious
for 100%. Like this is actually one of the biggest issues that I had in the cinema watching the film, because I basically didn't have a lot of problems when I was watching it the first time in the cinema, and then when I saw this scene, it just made me jump out of the movie because it took me out completely.
Yeah, so like one of the things about this scene too is it's almost like the writers at the time sort of forgot he's still recovering from being blown up when he does this.
I think that they forgot that he's human. That's shit.
Oh man, but yeah, Golden, what do you think?
Well, as I was saying earlier, it does one of the things that I do like about this version of Batman is the realism with the entire suit, all the gadgets, and the idea that it isn't just a perfect deploy the wings and just perfectly glide onto a gargoyle, for instance. Like, it is a full on like it's rough landing, absolutely just battered out all over the floor, and it does. I do think that, although it probably isn't mentioned in any behind the scenes or any interviews or anything like that, there are a lot of similarities between Netflix's Daredevil season 1 and this particular movie, with the idea of crafting gadgets and suits that don't necessarily work, so they have to go back and then alter them. And I like both ways that that's done. And again, with this one, it's a very weird shot because we have it's like a sort of like GoPro view in a way, and that was a bit different. I remember seeing that in the trailers and then during the film. It is a very unique shot from that.
It's weird that they do it from the back like that, because I know that they're trying to show how close he was being grabbed, but it's just unique is definitely the word I would use. You don't really ever see that kind of like. Usually, if they're doing like a jumping sequence like that, it's going to be from afar, and then you see it through their eyes, kind of thing, from the like going forward.
It does kind of take me out of it a little bit because it is that different. Like, I feel like if we had more of those shots, it would have made a bit more of sense. But with that, just all of a sudden, that particular angle, it doesn't really feel right in a way. Well, when you watch it.
Adam West would not do it because he would be like he'd be like, I need to pull out my anti-bus anti-bus bat spray, so that way when I hit the bus just disintegrates.
And so it's like that was one of my issues with the movie. I hope that they actually expand on it in the second one and try and make it better and try and keep the realism aspect of that. You don't make him human. Don't make everyone a superhero for Marvel. So I just hope that happens.
I do agree though that there is definitely like some parallels here with the first season specifically of Daredevil, of like him kind of failing but learning from his mistakes as he goes along.
Yep. So now we get to the Batmobile soon. So you basically have Detective Jim Gordon with the Batman. They're going to see because they're going. Batman told them that one of the GCPD officers was corrupt, and so they're following him to a drop off of penguins where Penguin is getting some money, and so basically this is what ensues. And Selina Kyle is there too, looking for some money to grab from Penguin, coincidentally.
So I'm not sure if this is the one, because I know that they do a couple of these sequences where they kind of like get together. One of them, he does say something about like, no guns, and then he's like, "Hey, that's your thing, man, not mine."
That's
I think
that's right after this. Yeah, it's when they go to the orphanage.
That's it. Okay. I mean, either way, that line kind of applies to either or. But yeah, this. So like, I don't want to talk too much about the stuff that leads up to the chase. I'm really like interested in talking about the chase specifically. So if you guys want to have fun with the stuff that leads up to the chase, that's fine.
All right.
Well, I like the idea that Batman is prevalent when they go and try and infiltrate these bunch of criminals, and then he goes away for a while, and you think, where the hell is he? And then this massive monster is just unleashed in this Batmobile.
Yeah,
I do like the sound too when he like gets the Batmobile going.
It sounds like a scream at first when you hear it. You're just like, what the hell is this? And then you just see everyone there, boom, looking, and everyone stops, which is pretty cool, honestly. And it's one of the best intros that you see for the Batmobile and all of that. You see, there you go. You've just got the blue light coming through. It's so good. And making it a muscle car too I think it was a great choice.
Oh yeah, because it's definitely like, first of all, it contrasts every other car that's on the road.
Yeah,
like all the other cars are either like they're like standard like sedans and stuff, or like trucks. So his just stands out as clearly the one that you're supposed to be paying attention to.
It's like once it starts up, you just see the light. Boom! Yeah. Oh man, Golden Age. What do you think about the Batmobile? Do you like it in this one, or would you prefer something like, for example, in the Christopher Nolan trilogy? That's basically like, I don't know, a tank. Yeah.
No, not the tumbler. That's awful.
I thought the tumbler was cool the first time they showed it, like when Batman Begins, and then it lost its luster really quickly.
Yeah, when it had like bat bikes in there and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I like this Batmobile because it does go back to that sort of inspiration from the 1970s noir crime fighting, those type of gangster movies. So that works well with that. And it does also speak a lot to Bruce's character with the idea that, we've talked about how he's been very secluded. He's been up in Wayne Manor. Anytime he does go out is as Batman. So he wouldn't be interested in, what is the newest type of vehicle? What's the newest type of tech? He has something which is old, something that's classic, but something that works. And then he, of course, modifies that. And when you have that contrasting the other type of architecture and the more sort of modern vehicles with these trucks with loads of sort of neon lights, and then he comes out with this, the vehicle does also have a sort of look of a vampire to it. And that is one thing that, when I was watching the trailers and did see the movie, I thought a lot of all the reds in the film. The reds are very vibrant and they do stand out, and it sort of creates this sort of Dracula type impression with all the blood, almost as if they're swimming in a sort of sea of blood with all these reds that got thrown at you.
He's portrayed as a predator.
Yeah, he is literally one with the bat. He is. There's no sort of separation there. So yeah, when it comes to the car, the Batmobile, absolutely fantastic option. I think a lot of people were sort of doubting it, thinking it just looked a bit, sort of naff. They didn't want to take a lot of risks, but I think that this was sort of a risk that they didn't even know they were taking, and I think it paid off very well.
Same. I actually really like the Batmobile. I think that making it just simplistic as to such, as you said before, you can tell that Bruce Wayne's technology in this movie is something that he built himself, and it feels like there is room for improvement on everything that he has built. So I just think that we like that. And yes, Smilex, we mentioned the engine sounds like a scream at the beginning, and then after that you've got the
it
bass.
sounds like it sounds almost like a bat squeal. Like it does actually give you that like.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if I could redo that sound again if I tried. And then, but the one thing that I will say about the car itself, so like in the older Batman movies, the 90s ones, they always mentioned that like Bruce Wayne had sort of inherited a collection of cars from his father. So it could very well be that this is his father's like prized like muscle car that he kept, and he's now modified it for its purpose, because it doesn't
It's
seem like
possible
something.
because at the funeral scene, you can see the car that he pulls up in is a classic car too. So
Yeah,
I think that would be a good thing. That after you've got all the bulletproof, the glasses, and all of that, I think that it's just so simple and it's not really elegant too. You know, you can feel that it complements who he is as a character, which I really really do appreciate.
thank you, Stupenzo, for waking up with us. We're
Thank you,
you know,
Stupenzo.
he set us as his alarm, apparently.
Hey, nice. Then so yeah, you've got Batman, and I just
This
think that like the rain, adding rain to this sequence
Yes.
just brings so much to the table.
Well, because it creates like, first of all, a high speed chase is automatically dangerous no matter what.
Yep.
But when you add in the slick roads and like the fact that they're going with and against traffic at certain points, it just creates a lot more tension as to like, oh well, there's a possibility that they don't get out of this, either of them, because like that's the thing is Batman does not only does he need to survive and catch the Penguin, he needs the Penguin to survive.
Yep.
Because
He does.
It doesn't. Him dying is not a thing that is good for the situation. He needs the information. So it's a really strange situation that he finds himself in, where it's like, well, I need to make sure I'm alive. I also have to catch him, but make sure that he doesn't kill himself by accident. So it's like,
it's true.
Which then it kind of throws itself into the wind when he like forces him to do like a 17 like a 17 flip crash.
At the end, you basically have him just have the most fatal car accident known to man. It's just like, all right, cool, yeah, sure.
There's no roll cage or anything. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but Golden Age. What do you think about the for example, the fact that Batman? Well, it's Penguin's fault, but Batman still ramps over all the trucks and leaves everything exploding behind him, with civilians probably there too.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's become a sort of trope in these superhero movies nowadays. If you look at something like Man of Steel, when he's deliberately letting exploding trucks just go past him into God knows where, there could be people, standing in the corner. You have, and whenever people criticize Zack Snyder's take on the Batman, there is a lot of criticism to be had, but they always point out the fact that his Batman kills. When even if you look at the Keaton Batman, he's very careless in when he uses his Batmobile, when he's setting people on fire, that sort of. So it's kind of a thing that we do have to overlook. So I mean, of course, people are going to criticize it. It does deserve that, but again, there's nothing for me to really compare it to anything better because they've all done sort of similar things. But I did like visually, of course, all of this. He's sort of. Penguin is part of a sort of crew with all of his other criminals, but Batman is just focused on getting to him, and it clearly shows with how he operates in this scene. But with the rain as well, it also works well because you have the light reflecting in the rain, and it does create this sort of factor that the environment is also working against him, of course, because you literally have a sea of blindness that he has to get past. But this scene in particular, which we got up now, this shot, that is very sort of menacing, with the sort of a monster coming towards you, and Penguin is unable to do anything to escape because he's absolutely rolled over. So yeah, and with the fire in the background again,
especially considering that the Penguin thought that he'd killed Batman by blowing up all the trucks, then you just see him pop out of the flames. Honestly, I'd shit my pants if I saw that. I believe that this man isn't human.
Yeah, he was so excited. He's like, I got you. In his face, he's like, oh shit.
Yeah, that whole sequence, that makes the sequence, because he really legitimately believes that Batman's dead, and then through the flames, just like quite literally a bat out of hell. Like he's just like You gotta be fucking kidding me.
And it's great that they shot it from his POV as well, keeping Batman and the Batmobile upside down. And plus, the Batmobile looks untouched, basically, which is cool too. It just adds to that
sense.
mystique.
Those cars are made of much sturdier metal than more modern cars. So,
oh, for sure.
But in my opinion, the thing that ruins this scene is when Batman bends down and sort of looks in, as in like, hello, peekaboo. Like, it should have just ended as we see him walking towards it. That whole thing with him crouching down and sort of being like, oh, hey, how are you doing? Absolutely pathetic. Yeah, get that out of here.
The worst part is that you have like the rain dripping on his face, and then you're just like, oh man, it was so cool before. What are we doing? Oh, it's like it's a bit of wasted potential. They could have just done a fade to black. That would have been great.
Yeah, he should be like passing out basically.
Or maybe what it could have done is they could have gone to a sort of black screen, but you hear a sort of scream in the background, so you know that he's just ripped him out of the car. But you don't actually see that. It gives that level of mystery to it.
That could have worked much better instead of just the weird popping in his head. It's like, oh no. And so yeah, now they've got him, and he brought him to Commissioner Gordon, and they're interrogating him about what is El Rata Alada, basically. And so Penguin corrects them on the Spanish, and he says it's not El Rata, it's La Rata.
He's like, it's the worst Spanish I ever heard.
Yes.
that's what it was just like first grade Spanish or something.
And
I love his like New York, New Jersey, tri-state area accent is just so spot on.
You can tell that he's not afraid of any of them. It's just like bantering with them the entire way.
Well, yeah, he's not afraid of them because at this point he kind of is aware that they can't kill him. Like he's useful to them. Like, he'd be dead already if they wanted him dead. Like, plus, they're the good guys. He generally villains don't fear the good guys in the same way that what is it? Civilians would fear villains. So,
That's true, and they do give that good proper comparison, which is pretty good. And so and then now we've got the
URL
Riddler, URL Rata, which I don't know how to feel about that, to be honest. It's a bit weird. URL.
So it was definitely kind of a stretch. They do it a couple of times here, actually, where it's a bit of a stretch in terms of clues. But it's not the worst one that I've ever seen in terms of that. I'd say that actually, what is it? The one later is worse. But the like where I don't want to get too far ahead of us, but it is a clever wordplay that they did. So,
but I don't know, man. I would have never guessed it. URL Rata. I was like, what the fuck?
I mean, up to this point, everything's been like computer-based stuff. So, I mean, I guess he could have figured it out.
It's true. Then so this is when we learn about the orphanage and the Gotham Renewal Fund, basically set up by the Waynes,
which has become basically just
Junkie's place.
Well, the Gotham Renewal Fund specifically has been turned into a it's just
a way to
I'm
use
forgetting
corruption.
The term that I had the term earlier as I was thinking about it, but I can't remember it all of a sudden. But it's just like a way to like funnel money, and that's all it's become. It's a large sum of money that has very little oversight, basically.
Yep. And then so you've got Batman, who now finds out that Bruce Wayne is the target. So you've got Alfred that's opening a package for Bruce Wayne, which is the issue that I mentioned before that I had with Alfred. So you have Alfred, who's supposed to be, this war hero and something, but he doesn't recognize that, there's a problem with the package. Because I think that he would have thrown the package away once he saw that the To the Batman letter was in a fireproof suit, in a fireproof case, basically. So I don't know, man. You know that Bruce Wayne is someone who is famous. You know that Bruce Wayne is someone who might have enemies. You don't know who's out for him. And you're basically his only security, and you're his father figure at the same time. So I would think that with your history, you would know better than to just, fall for that trap. You get what I mean?
Yeah, no, he definitely. So I was just looking at the chat. I'm trying to like keep up with it here, but
Yeah, no props.
he definitely like falls into that quick, like a little too easily.
And plus, go ahead.
I was gonna say he could have like I wouldn't have even been touching the mail there, like knowing what's been going on, like for a random package like that to show up for Bruce Wayne. I would have just been like, no, I'm not even this. I would throw it right out the window. Be like, we'll figure this out later. We'll find it. We'll find it on the ground.
Plot convenience, exactly. It's like that's it. And yeah, an MI6 veteran who just handles a suspicious package. Sure, it's like I couldn't see that happening. And plus, in addition to that, you also have the fact that they say that the fire happened an hour before.
Yeah, so I actually liked that you weren't seeing what was actually happening at the time.
But wouldn't
you were seeing like a flashback, basically?
Wouldn't you know through Gordon? What does Gordon have his radio off, as if the people wouldn't report a huge fire at like Wayne Manor or something like that? You get what I mean?
I could see him having his radio off there. He's kind of like I wouldn't be shocked if he actually wasn't working on the clock, because this is not he's working directly with Batman.
I see what you mean. And then so then after that we've got Batman, who now wants to go and see Falcone, basically. Falcone,
yeah. This scene is this is where I was saying that it gets a little repetitive.
Yeah.
Because he now has to go back into the iceberg lounge and all that stuff. So it gets a little repetitive for a little while.
So then here you basically have Falcone that's telling him that there was a reporter that the Waynes hired, that his father hired, Thomas Wayne, technically. And then you have the aspect that Thomas Wayne was basically trying to hide the fact that Martha Wayne was in a mental institution on and off, and the reporter knew and was saying that he was going to do it. So he approached Falcone, and Falcone dealt with the situation, basically. But Falcone portrays it as if Thomas Wayne knew exactly what he was doing, that he knew that he was going to kill this reporter because of that. So you've got basically Bruce that's basically in shambles because of that, because he thought that his father was a good man. But then when he comes to Alfred gives us the situation from a different perspective, saying that basically you have Thomas Wayne that essentially did go to Falcone for the reporter, but he didn't know that Falcone would go as far as killing the guy. And once he said that he would go and tell the police that Falcone killed the guy, well, coincidentally, that same night is where Thomas and Martha Wayne died. So Alfred said that he's not sure of the correlation. He says that he thinks there might be, but he still leaves the opportunity, like he still leaves the possible thinking that, oh yes, it could have still just been a random dude in the street because Gotham is that bad. So yeah, I actually like it. Yeah,
Golden, we haven't heard from you in a bit.
I think the moment between Alfred and Bruce is very well done, and it also serves as a sort of alarm bell for Bruce to sort of wake up, because he has been so disconnected, and he does say that he should have been more careful, and of course now his loved ones are getting involved with all of this. I do think that how they leave the situation open-ended for who exactly killed the Waynes is a very good one, because of course this is Gotham, so of course it could have just been random criminals, because it is that bad. It's not out of the ordinary that could have been the case, and it just goes to it goes to highlight how bad Gotham truly is. But the whole plot twist of Martha Wayne being in the
mental institutions,
the mental institution, that was a nice touch to it. Of course, it does sort of help Bruce realize that he's been thinking he is the righteous one in all of this, but there are also ties to him that with these criminal organizations. So again, it does make the situation a bit more personal, does give a bit more reasoning as to why he wants to stop all this, and not just being, oh well, I'm fighting criminals. It does help to put Bruce into the shoes of someone who has had enough with these criminals, wants to stop all of it, and not just Batman who just wants to do some good in the world. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah,
I will say that this is probably the best world building like stretch. I don't know how exactly, 5-10 minutes, whatever, maybe. Probably the best world building stretch, because it is, first of all, the fact that they pulled stuff right out of the comics in terms of the fact that Martha is an Arkham. That's who she is. She's a descendant of the Arkham family, which is of the Arkham Asylum, which does have a history of mental illness. That's one of the reasons why they founded the Arkham Asylum, is because they have a history of mental illness, which then also plays into the fact that maybe Bruce has mental illness as well. But also, then you go to the other side, where the Wayne side is more connected to the criminal element through not necessarily the fact that they're trying to treat them, but he's kind of connected to them financially. I guess he did technically treat him when he did help Falcone not die, but so like he's very connected to all aspects of the criminal underbelly of the world of the world that he's within. So he's actually fighting later on. They talk about legacy and stuff. Not only is he fighting against criminals, he's fighting against his own family's legacy. Yeah, in a sense that way as well. We do have a new super chat we will go to in a second.
Yep. So and I like the phrase that Alfred says. He said, "You needed a father, but all you had was me," which speaks volumes for the character itself. Which I think it's a pretty nice touch too.
I'm gonna save that super chat. It's actually more relevant for what we're gonna talk about later.
Sure. Then so now we've got basically Selina Kyle that contacted Batman and Gordon using the bat signal, so they go to the usual location, and so she has the GCPD officer that was crooked, and she's basically beating him and shows them the message of Annika, and this is where they find out that Carmine Falcone is the rat, basically, that he gave all the information to take down the Maroni crime family, and she wants to go and kill him.
I just want to point this out. Waylon Bicefus, not incorrect, but there has been, they've kind of flip-flopped multiple times on whether or not she's an Arkham or not. I think as of right now, she's canonically a Arkham, though, if I recall correctly. It's hard to tell with DC. They reset their shit every they
have like 10 timelines.
That's why when people, whenever a movie's announced and they always compare it to source material, I kind of see that as a redundant decision, because it's like, well, what source material are you going to compare it to? Because there's probably been some iteration out there that does align with this director's vision. So so that's why whenever people bring source material into it, I kind of tend to stay out of that.
Yeah, I'm never really a person who's like, you need to follow the source material to a T, unless it's a specifically like a closed mini series or like a very tight storyline that you're trying to redo. You can have a little bit of fun, like for instance, like I've always said, like Watchmen is probably the most faithful adaptation of a comic I've ever seen. Yeah, and to its own detriment in some senses. In this instance, they were pulling from multiple sources as inspiration, so it's okay that they used a little bit here and there.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's good using a little bit here and there, but you still have to try and distinguish your thing from the source material. Like you still have to have your unique spin on it, which I would say. You can respect the source material, but as long as you have the for me, it's as long as you keep the heart of the source material into the product, then I think that you're good to go,
Yeah, of course.
And so then after this, we've got Catwoman that escapes, and so she's on her way to kill Falcone, and we now know that he's basically her father, and she wants to go kill him because he killed her girlfriend, which is, interesting, especially since they have the proof and all of that. But you also have Batman at the same time that wants to try and stop it, but he comes to the place as not in his full Batman gear, but he comes as a hooded, as we see him in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, he's basically like sneaks into the club.
Yeah. And so he ends up taking out the lights. And I had the problem where you have the scene where Selina Kyle tries to kill Carmine Falcone with the shot, and she misses just because the lights go off. And it's like she was almost a meter away.
Yeah.
You can't miss that shot.
Look, being an American, I can tell you I know about guns because of that. And you miss a lot with a handgun. Like if you're not particularly well trained with a handgun, you're probably gonna miss
even at that close range.
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
Oh, man.
She wasn't looking down the sight either. She was just kind of holding it like out
with one arm too.
Yeah. So
yeah, I think video games fool us into thinking that firing from the hip is very simple and easy.
Yeah, it's really not.
And so now they've got Carmine Falcone arrested, and he's basically brought into the light, as the Riddler's riddle said. And so this is where he gets shot by the Riddler, and they finally see who it is through the window that they look at, and they're chasing him down. And they get to the place, but the Riddler isn't there. And so ultimately, they only know that the Riddler is there because a woman reported seeing a guy drop down from the escape, the fire escape. Yeah. I don't know. We don't have any of those over here, so it's an American thing, I guess.
So you guys just don't care if you burn alive in a building? That's
man. I don't know. I just have like a stairwell. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, fire escapes are pretty important. Actually, we had a whole thing like historically where it was like a really big deal that didn't happen. There was a building that didn't have one. So
I'm on the second floor. I'll just jump out the window. Like it'll be good.
Yeah, fine. I mean they're pretty much standard on all buildings in America because there was, I forget the exact name of it, but there was like essentially a factory of textile working and like, you know, sewing, and like a bunch of women were in there like sewing, and it caught on fire, and they could because they were on the second floor, third floor, whatever, they couldn't get out.
Yeah,
burned to death. And it standard for all buildings to have fire escapes.
I think that it's a good safety precaution. I don't really know what type of safety precautions we have here, to be honest. It's like,
they are also serve a secondary purpose of being awesome for movies. So
they're always cool scenes in fire escapes. And then then after now we finally get, you know, that trailer shot with all the cops coming in and arresting the Riddler finally, and we see his face for the first time, and it's Paul Dano basically. And I don't know. Did they release who was playing the Riddler before?
I think if you dug into it, you could, but they didn't it wasn't like a thing that they were like really using as marketing.
Promoting. Yeah. All right. And then so now they go back to the house where the Riddler was, where he shot Falcone from, and now they get all the evidence and see his master plan. Well, they don't really see his master plan, but at least they get some evidence. And they find the carpet tool that he used to kill the mayor at the beginning, and it says "My Confession." So, at this point, all we know is that it's just a carpet tool. So it's the evidence with his prints and the blood, and we know that it's him. But we don't understand that it's the "My Confession" with what happens later with all the trucks, and that they have to use it to basically raise up the carpet.
Yeah, basically he's one of the greatest things about the Riddler, he's one of my favorite villains in all of comics, is that he always leaves like he doesn't do anything in terms of like trying to really fake you out. He leaves you the clues. It's just your job to figure them out. He's definitely not going to lie to you. Yeah, he thinks he's smarter than you, and he thinks you won't be able to figure out what he's done.
Exactly. And then here you have a fun scene where the Riddler is basically saying Bruce Wayne, Bruce Wayne, Bruce Wayne. And so you, as the audience member, you're probably thinking, oh shit, you know, we know who this guy is, especially considering that when Riddler is calling him Bruce Wayne, you have Batman having flashbacks to stuff that he saw in the Riddler's house where it was his image. Then they were saying like the real you. So even Batman thinks that the Riddler like knows the jig is up, as they say. Did you guys have that like same effect? Did what the movie tried to do?
100% like that. You think that he knows that he's Bruce Wayne? Yes, I even had that happen again, knowing it was about to happen. I was like, oh shit, does he know? Like, yeah, because that's actually one of that's a running thing with the Riddler. He considers Batman's identity the ultimate riddle.
Yeah,
And
basically.
So, but he doesn't want to find out like by unmasking him or anything. He wants to figure it out like for real.
Yeah.
And because like I said, he's a textbook narcissist who thinks he's smarter than everybody. And
exactly.
most of the time he is smarter than most of the people. But Batman is equally, if not smarter than him, and it perplexes him as to why he cannot ever outthink him.
Exactly. So, and I think that it's cool because he says that the Riddler is the real me and the Batman is the real you, which I find very interesting because considering what we've seen this entire time, and also plays into what comes later on with the who are you? I'm vengeance, when they ask all the Riddler people, you know. And so it's a good aspect as to make Bruce Wayne understand that he needs to be Bruce Wayne, even though there is a lot of need for Batman in the world, in Gotham, basically.
So here's the thing about, all of this is that is 100% true. So like one of the running things that people often say, I forget the exact comic. It was Justice League or maybe it was Trinity, where they're all holding the lasso of truth, and it's like, to trust each other, we need to tell each other who exactly we are. And it goes to Superman, he goes, I'm Clark Kent. He goes to Wonder Woman, I'm Diana Prince. And then it goes to Batman, he goes, I'm Batman. Like, and it's like the whole thing is that's who he really is, and the facade is Bruce Wayne. He's not the person that the world sees is not actually who he is, and that's actually pretty much everybody. You have your ego, your super ego, and your id. Your super ego is who you really are. Your ego is what people see. Your id is usually it's like sexual desires and stuff, but that's like reptilian brain, like base level stuff that like we can't get rid of. It's like, need for food, need for like stuff like that. That's stuff that we can't get rid of, but your super ego is your real personality. And that's kind of what Batman is.
Yeah, exactly. Golden Age, what do you think about this entire, interaction with Batman and Riddler?
Well, they did successfully fool us into thinking that the Riddler knew that Bruce Wayne was underneath the suit. But I would say, I believe the next part of this scene is when the Riddler has his bit of a meltdown, which is what kind of ruined it a bit for me. Because again, I think he should be a bit more, not confident, but he should, be a bit more calm, calculating, and he does just appear a bit satirical in some sense.
I agree with you.
I think 100%. From here is where the movie sort of goes downhill for me.
Oh, for me too. Yeah. Because at this point, it's like the last 30 minutes and it just feels added on for no reason. And you don't even really get that build up to anything. You just, for example, here you have Batman coming into the Riddler's place, and you have Martinez, the cop. And I mean, if Martinez wasn't there, would anyone even know what the tool is? The piece of evidence.
Well, so I used to lay carpet during the summers, so yeah, I would have, but most people wouldn't have.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's like, I mean, especially Bruce Wayne, someone who doesn't really do all of this stuff. I doubt that he would know. So
he basically here's the thing, and this is a not only for this one, it was also for the El Rada. These are clues that I personally think that Batman should have been able to figure out on his own. Like the fact that he didn't actually do any research on what that item even was is a little outside of character for Batman.
Same. Yeah, that's what I think too. And I mean, and plus it's something that's introduced the first time we see it. We know that Bruce sees everything. And so just not looking into it and saying, oh, it's just a tool that's just like, no, I don't know. Like any tool serves a purpose, especially, in a shape like that. It doesn't look like a statue either. And so I mean, Martinez was also there in the when the mayor was dead, so he could have identified the thing too.
Yeah, it's weird that nobody has identified it at all.
And this is like, where basically the contrivances and all the plot problems build up and the character problems build up to the finale. So yeah, so that's
it's a real like, and the thing is like the whole thing is kind of like a Xanatos gambit because
Mm.
they never really specifically state it, but it does seem that him searching this out kind of triggers the bombs, which has happened a few times where like starting like had they not plugged in the USB thumb drive earlier, it would have never started any of this in motion.
Yep.
Because that was what sent out the pictures from. First of all, it's like you didn't do this on an encrypted computer.
Exactly.
Like, you know,
that was my first thought. Also, I was like, "Come on, man! Like, even Batman would probably have like a mini laptop or I don't know, an iPad or something that's encrypted."
I mean, like literally, you used it on Jim Gordon's Google account. Like that just seems like really silly. And like this is another one where it's like. And I'm not 100% certain that they do because they didn't say specifically that him doing this triggers the bombs, but it does seem like him typing in the URL is what starts the whole thing. So it does come off like a Xanatos gambit.
Yep. So yeah, we've got a message from Vex. She's saying, "Is the panel split on the movie, or did y'all mostly dislike it?"
We're getting close to the end, so that's probably when we're gonna do the like final thoughts, but. I like it, but I can see the problems. I'm definitely not on like Cynic's level of it being my favorite Batman movie, but I enjoyed it.
But I think what really falls apart is feel free to correct me because I'm going to go through the way that I understand the Riddler's plan. Of course, it could be incorrect. That's why I'm open to the criticism. But so throughout this movie, Riddler has been wanting to expose the corruption of Gotham to try and liberate the people because he feels like they're being downtrodden. So I believe that's what he's trying to do. But when you have the third act, when he essentially just says, "Right, I give up. Everyone, can't be safe. No one can be liberated. We should all just go down with it. Nothing's going to change." Then it kind of makes everything else we've seen throughout the film redundant because it's kind of like going into an infected body and trying to heal each of the different organs when you know that it's not going to work. You should have just put it into a fire. That's kind of how I view it. It's why
I mean, that's a bit morbid, but I think I get what you're saying. It's like instead of trying to heal this person, just burn them. Just burn them. I get what you're saying, though. He's trying to treat it's like trying to treat the symptoms without dealing with the root cause. I think is what you're saying.
Yeah, or it's I was trying to use my imagination a bit with that, but it's kind of like trying to fix something that is entirely broken. You're trying to fix each of the individual parts when it's it's not going to work. It's screwed anyway. So I don't really see the purpose for him doing that.
Yeah.
So it just baffles me. It feels like it kind of came out of nowhere for me. I kind of had to, after the film, I didn't feel like I was satisfied with the explanation I was given. So I kind of had to go off to YouTube videos trying to see people dissecting it. And I still don't really understand if, how this actually works. It, as I say, it just feels like they kind of just had it in a drawer and was like, "Oh, we'll use this." It kind of feels.
I really think you're hitting right exactly where I feel with that.
Ooh.
I think if they would have just had him in the interrogation be the last scene, and him be like, something along the lines of like, "I've already accomplished my goal. Like I've exposed the corruption. It's only it's gonna rot from the head now," and be calm about it. I think that would have been such a superior ending.
Yeah, I actually agree with you guys because I feel like when you get to the end after this, when they're explaining all of Riddler's plans, and when you start to think about it, there were so many things that needed to go right for Riddler's plan just to take effect that it's basically impossible. And also just the fact that, as Golden Age Geek said, it feels as if he just abandoned his plan, and then they were like, "Oh, you know what? Everybody dies. Fuck it."
Just abandoned my plan, and everyone just blow up.
But actually, I think I could have used a better sort of metaphor for it. Here, I think is a more accurate one, the way I view it. Forget all about the bloody burning bodies. That was a bad one on my part. I think
no, that's in lore now. That's in legend of this channel.
I think a better way to look at it is you have a room full of the most evil people ever, and you can either press this button and blow up the room, killing all of them, or you can just go in, risk it, and you've just got a gun and you try and kill them individually. It makes more sense to just blow them all up instead of trying to just go in and individually trying to expose all of them when you could have just done this whole big final plan.
The whole point of what his plan was up to this point was that he would not only would he kill you, he would ruin your reputation and expose your corruption. And now he's just gone into, well, my plan didn't work, screw it mode. I think that's kind of what you're saying. Like, but his plan did work. That's the thing, is he actually succeeds at what he's trying to do in the first portion of the movie. Like, he exposes a lot of stuff. Whether or not it has 100% the outcome he was looking for is irrelevant. He did achieve at least part of his goal. And then his next goal is to then kill the person who wants to fix that. It's really weird.
I mean, for me, basically, the movie is for Vex's question. So the movie is style over substance, and but the style is just so good that sometimes you don't really care that much about the substance. You can forgive it for being lackluster, even though, like, this is just the second time I rewatched this movie for this live stream. The first time was in the cinema, so I think that can tell you enough. And so to end that part, I'll just pull up RRTNZ's 10 New Zealand dollars. Thank you, man. Thanks for showing up. I know it's late at your side. And so The Batman, overly long, missing an actual Bruce Wayne character and not enough Alfred, but otherwise a good Batman film. Not as good as The Dark Knight or 89. Enough said. Going back to sleep. Cheers. Thank you, man.
Thank you. But yeah, no, I think that summed it up. That's actually, I was saving it for exactly what you just used it for. I felt that summed it up a lot.
Yep, basically. And then so yeah, back to the movie. We've got Batman, and this is when all of the fourth act, as you guys say, is happening.
Yeah, we're probably not going to spend too much time on this because it's like, it's really
nonsensical.
The part that a lot of nonsensical stuff.
And so then after that, you've got everyone just rushing in. However, I do like the production value on this because it reminded me a lot of Roland Emmerich. It reminded me of The Day After Tomorrow.
Yes,
when all 100%. The streets are getting flooded. I actually like that aspect because I like Roland Emmerich films in general. Like just seeing the world end is just fun. And that part I liked. But then having all of this happen with the mayor that gets basically sniped by the goons of the Riddler.
Yeah, like, why didn't they all just take a shot? Like, if like the whole point is that they want her to die, why didn't they all just take a shot at the same time?
Yeah, I don't get it. It's so weird. And then this is probably one of the worst parts. You've got Batman dropping glass.
Actually, Hostman Socrates basically just said exactly what I was like.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I get it. Maybe that's what they had available. That's fine. And like, because like they even say in like the chat room or whatever,
what caliber,
what caliber is our rifles? Okay, like it might just be what they have.
Yeah.
But it's like, if that's the case, then it's like, why don't like 6 of you take a shot at the same time? Like,
exactly. It's so weird. Just bring in like ARs and spray everyone if that's what you want to do. I'm saying,
like, let's say that they're just going with what they have, right? Like they just happen to have, hunting rifles and whatnot. If your goal is to kill this specific person, which it clearly was at that moment, all of you take a shot. Just guaranteed. Like if
100% at least
they have like 20 or 30 people up there, like if 20 or 30 people take a shot at once, I guarantee you that she ain't surviving.
And there's not even a specific thing about who they're shooting except for her. After that, they just shoot randomly, I guess, because the film doesn't really emphasize who else they're gonna be shooting. That's in there, which I think is a bit of a misstep because it just seems as if they're coming to randomly shoot everyone, the civilians included. So yeah, then after that we've got Batman that pops up, and I mean his entrance is cool. It follows the rule of cool, but dude, you're dropping so many shards of glass on the civilians that are down there.
Yeah,
it's like, man.
Yeah, that would have been a mess, like both literally and figuratively.
Man, look, and plus, how aren't you like trying to hurry this stuff? How did you have time to put like detonators on each and every side? Which is like,
yeah, that's a good question
it's
too.
like, what the fuck, man?
He painstakingly set like 19 detonators around the skylight.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no, you can't do this, man. I don't know, Golden Age. What do you think about this sequence?
Well, yeah, he is a little bit careless with all of the, the entrance causing all the glass to drop. Again, Batman is very sort of out of the picture in a way. I mean, he knows he wants to save the people, but what he's doing, if he actually pays attention, is kind of antithetical to that goal. But yeah, with the sequence on top of the the structure, I didn't mind it. I feel again with the type of weapons that are used, perhaps they should be doing a little bit more damage to him. Yeah, that's kind of my main criticisms about it, to be honest.
Yeah, he's indestructible, basically.
I think what it is that this movie really at its core works best as a noir detective story, and when they go away from that, it immediately loses all of that.
It's true. Well, here it just becomes your basic we need big explosions, we need this, we need Batman to be the Batman from, for example, the Snyder stuff, or the Dark Knight. It needs to be big and bold. Well, brave and bold, technically.
The brave and the bold.
That's yes. Yeah,
I will say this. This is a thing I had in my notes, and there wasn't really a spot specific for me to like throw it in. But now that we have them together on the screen, they did a pretty good job of capturing the awkwardness that would be their relationship, especially considering the fact she doesn't know who he is. In the comics, it's often implied that she knows who he is, but never confirmed a lot of the time. Yeah. Later on, she confirms it, but like for long stretches of time, she didn't. And because not only that, it was like Selina Kyle was dating Bruce Wayne, and Batman was always with Catwoman, but she didn't know she was with the same guy. Like it's
Yeah, it's so weird too. But at least here they do something with it, and plus it's a will they won't they thing. And most of the time they don't. Even at the end, the last shot, you can tell that they're both trying to go in for a kiss, but they're both reluctant because they know that their lives are separate, but they know that their lives are also intertwined. I would say not their lives, their personalities basically are intertwined. So they would be perfect for each other, but such is life, as they say.
I think you're right at this spot. Like, I think he injects himself with adrenaline or something,
yeah,
which is fine, but I do feel that should have been set up a little bit more.
At least show him putting adrenaline in his suit or something, packing it. Oh yeah, but I like that he has a small compartment. If you look closely, there is a small compartment specifically for that purpose, so that he can inject it through there. So I like that there's forethought in it, that maybe he knows that he's a one-man army, so he knows that he would need it in that situation, which I like. But as you said, I think it would be better if they had set it up a bit.
And I believe Matt Reeves came out after the film was released saying that inside that adrenaline shot was a component of Bane's venom. I believe that was something that happened.
Yeah, literally as you said that. Yeah. Which would be fine if it was set up. That's one thing I have a huge problem with, and it's becoming more and more and more common, and it's directors coming out and explaining things that should have been explained in the movie.
Yeah, basically.
And I'm getting frustrated with that because it's like, if you wanted that to be in the movie, put it in the movie.
Yep. I agree with you.
It doesn't even, he didn't necessarily have to say Venom. He could have been at some point, he could have been talking to Alfred, setting up his gear and been like, this is I got my hands on this experimental adrenaline booster.
Yeah.
And then that could lead to something later.
Basically, I mean, just have that in, because there's no establishment of Venom in the universe at all. Yeah. So it just comes out of nowhere. And it's like, okay, cool. And that's it. So I just hope that at least, in the second one, they do something to establish it, at least, in a mention or something. Then I
will say this, the guy here says that he's vengeance, and it kind of implies that this group is will latch on to anybody. that is like someone they can stride to be.
Yeah.
And that they are they in their like minds believe that they're doing the same kind of work as Batman.
Well, I also think that comes from the fact that Riddler, when there was the interrogation scene, I don't think I mentioned this before, but Riddler said that Batman inspired him to become the Riddler. So I'm sure that he might have been talking to, his people basically, and he must be saying like, "Oh, we have to do the work of the Bat. We are vengeance." And I think that it's good, and this is where you have the thematic elements of the story that pop out the most, because you see Bruce Wayne finally, you see Batman basically coming face to face with what he's turning people into if he strays on this path, and how his influence on people will be if he keeps being that ultra violent person that just doesn't really help people per se, but he only helps them through violence.
Well, that's always been a running theme with Batman, is that before Batman showed up, it was always your traditional crime element, mobs, muggers, murderers, the big M's, if you will.
Yeah.
And then he brought along the maniacs. He brought along the crazies because he took down the thing that was holding them in check.
Yeah.
And so that's always been a running theme with Batman. The thing that was keeping those people from rising through the ranks was the fact that there was an establishment in those ranks.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, it's a good theme. That's why it's a recurring theme, because it works. They say write what you know, write what works too. So that's why we see a lot of stuff nowadays. How do we say it? Formulaic filmmaking nowadays.
This is great. Nah, you didn't miss much, man. We were just waiting for you the last 3 hours.
Yeah, we're 3 hours in, man.
I'm gonna leave it up for a while. As I'm still setting up the channel. For the reposts. By the end of this upcoming week, though, it will be on the repost channel.
Yep. And so yeah, this is the part where we have so basically the water has flooded in, and you have the electric cable that's swinging in the water, which if it goes inside, basically everyone's electrocuted and dead. So Batman hops onto the top of the cable and takes out his batarang from his chest piece. And
the first and only time he uses the batarang. So
basically. It's like, I don't know, man. You could have just used a random knife. It was cool to have that touch of having him do it, but So then there you go. We have him falling. You have the shots of Jim and Selina looking down. And I actually thought that he was dead at this point. I thought that someone would have to jump in and maybe save and revive him. I thought that Selina Kyle would jump after him. But nope. He just
pulls out a not a torch, a flare.
Yeah, he just Melvin, this was the stupidest part of the film. How dare you?
Yeah, the last like half hour is pretty bad.
Yeah, it's just bad. It's weird. It's full of contrivances, and it just it breaks down basically the goodwill that it built up in the first 2 hours. So since it breaks down all of what happened in the first 2 hours, it just makes that none of it really made sense. Or not, everything, it just gives you that feeling that, well, everything else was super contrived then, if this is the final point. So I think that was a poor choice.
So I think, yeah, the whole, essentially what this scene was trying to do, and it, in a way it does accomplish it, but it could have been done in better ways.
Oh, for sure.
Batman is realizing that he needs to be more than just what he is.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a running theme from the beginning of the movie. From early on, when Alfred says to him, you still have obligations, and he's saying he doesn't care about those. This is him kind of realizing he needs to care about that stuff. That there's more to this than just like it, because he says at one point he doesn't care if he dies.
Yeah.
But like clearly these people need him. So like it does matter if he dies.
It does.
The whole thing, this whole sequence was supposed to probably, in my opinion, it was supposed to be the culmination of him coming to this realization. And it just was kind of poorly done. unfortunately.
It was, but at least they tied in. The first person that takes his hand is basically the kid that we've been looking at the entire movie. So the mayor who died, his child. So basically, he's the first person that grabs Batman's hand when he
Yes.
asks for it. Because when Batman lends a hand, you can see everyone still is afraid, even though he pushed stuff out of the way to come and rescue you so that you don't drown. People are still scared of him. Then so the second person that actually takes his hand is the mayor. So first person's the kid, then it's the mayor, then everyone else follows. Then I think this is when he starts monologuing again and saying that well, he knew that this is what he yeah, you gotta do better, Batman. You gotta step up.
You gotta whatever.
And,
Whatever you plan to do.
Yeah. And then so this is where we have the end shot of basically Gotham flooded.
Yeah, and this city would take years to get back from this.
Oh, for sure.
Like the everything about what's going on in this city is done. All the businesses are ruined. Like
everything is ruined, man. It's like the entire city is underwater. It's like just relocate at that point. What else is there to do?
What I want to know is why is your city in a situation that a damaged flood wall makes it so you're you're literally like 12 feet below sea level.
Well, exactly. It's so weird too, because you see the flood wall is like, I don't know. I'd expect it to withstand more than a fucking explosion.
Well, I mean, it was 9 explosions. Let's be
no, but I mean, it was 9 explosions on each wall. So it's like that means that each one was taken out by 1 explosion. I don't know. It's like
I would assume that if you had 9 very large explosions go off on your seawall, that would be a problem. But like, why is your entire it's just like the planning of this city was very poor.
Yeah, it's so weird. But I don't know. Is that actually something that is relevant to Gotham? For example, like in the comics, is that how Gotham is?
Not to my knowledge. I've never noticed that. I will say this. I mean, Gotham is actually really like it's Atlantic City, New Jersey is really what it is. If you look at the DC encyclopedia, that's where it is on the map.
Yeah.
Yeah, why is your city under? Yeah, here we go. Why is your city under sea level? Is the point? It doesn't matter if it's like how'd you even get to this point? But it's not really relevant in the comics because it's really just about the they've never done anything with that to my knowledge.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people, after I came out of the cinema for the first time and I was talking to them about this, a lot of people just automatically picked up on Gotham being underneath this seawall, but I had absolutely no clue until I went off and sort of looked at people's reviews and research and stuff. So maybe that's why also this third act just hit me out of nowhere, because it felt like I was being introduced to a bunch of things I had no clue about for the first time.
I totally agree with you.
Vex, that's possibly a good reason, but I just don't think it was necessary. It's like that's basically what I'm at with it. I think really if we would have just ended the movie 20 minutes ago or so, it would have been fine. 25 minutes ago. And we haven't even had the final scene yet, which we're barely gonna. I mean, I have one thing to say about it, but the whole ending. But yeah, it just the whole tacked on flood sequence.
There is no Gotham seawall in the comics. Climate change.
Greta Thunberg intensifies. How dare you?
And so this is where Batman finally sees that people will trust him, will want them, and is this woman that's basically grasping onto him and not letting go, even though she's in basically the I forgot how you call that thing for the helicopter, the weird.
Well, that's a gurney. Is what
that is. The gurney, yeah, basically. So she's on the gurney and she still doesn't want to let go, even though she's surrounded by the military, and it's like you feel safer with Batman than you do with the military. So it just proves that his influence is there already, and it's planting all those seeds that just make him have to evolve into someone who helps you without without only striking fear into the inhabitants of Gotham, but striking fear into its criminals, basically.
What'd you guys think of like this Joker sequence, by the way?
They could have cut this shit out, man. Honestly, it's like we're fed up with the Joker at this point. Come on.
I mean, I like the Joker, and I think he's intrinsically connected to Batman forever, no matter what you do. Like, he will always be the Batman villain. But I do feel like this kind of took away from the Riddler.
Yeah,
like,
it did. It did. Yeah, Iceman says it. Unnecessary. 100%. I just feel like it didn't add anything at all to the overall story.
I think what I've concluded is that all the things from this film that I don't like are things that somehow set up for future stories, and that's the thing that has happened across the last 10 years in movies, is that the current movie always has to hint at the next one, the next thing, and that's why we don't have any sort of self-contained stories anymore, because they're always trying to set up in this case they already knew that they were going to have 3 movies, so
yeah.
Again, I feel like we just need to go back to those self-contained stories. The Joker, great character, but doesn't need to be in this and shouldn't have been in this scene. It should have just been all about the Riddler. We don't need any reference to any other person, because it should just be self-contained crime stories. And that's why loads of people always reference that perhaps Batman works better as a TV series, because you have that sort of enclosed sort of case file. If you look at it, like, this is like one particular villain that he fights, and the case closed, next one, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I wish that they would actually embrace a gritty Batman series at this point, because I was thinking about this actually only maybe an hour before we went live. Like, there's just this like hell-bent, dead set look on like Batman has to be in movies, and anything related to Batman can be a TV series, but we can't really have a Batman show. We can have a Gotham show about before he's Batman. We can have Robin in Titans. We can have, Batwoman. Like, we can literally take a character in the Green Arrow and make him Batman, but we can't have a Batman show. And it's starting to get really annoying, because I think he's perfect for it, to do exactly what you just said. Have a couple like each season could have an overarching villain, whether it be the Joker, Riddler, whoever, and then use some of the more minor characters as villains of the day. Like, I think
you can go through the entire Rogues Gallery easily.
He's got he's at minimum, he's got a top 2 Rogues Gallery, if not, but he probably has the number 1.
Yeah. I mean, it's so weird that they just keep taking. I mean, as you said before, Dark Hour, it just takes away the spot of the Riddler, who was there the whole movie. It's like, okay, I don't think the complaint would be as big if it was a character other than Joker, because Joker is just so big, and we know why he's in it. It's just so you say, oh, look, it's the Joker, so that you can have more discourse surrounding the film with it. But man, it's like a waste.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been. There's so much potential there for like an Max, not HBO Max, a Max show, where it's like, imagine if the Riddler story was 6 episodes, and in the middle there was the episode about Selina Kyle and trying to find this stuff, and the episode about there could be a flashback episode to the Salvatore Maroni stuff. This could have been so fantastic.
Yeah, it could have been fleshed out a lot more if I mean, it could be.
I enjoy the movie. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy the movie, but I think it could have been elevated to like the next level as a mini series or a television show.
For sure, I really think that they should have brought in like another person to write this, because, for example, Matt Reeves, I think that I'm not sure, but I think he wrote the Planet of the Apes trilogy as well as directed it, and you can see that. I mean, you can clearly see his writing influence on the Batman too, because of the way the story goes. So I think that they should have had another person come in and oversee the script a bit more, just to make it a bit more like compact, basically. Remove all of these elements, unless Well, of course, it's like studio mandated stuff. Maybe the
Mhm.
Joker appearance could have actually been studio mandated. We don't know.
I wouldn't be shocked if it was.
Yeah, I really wouldn't be shocked too, because this was what 2022. Warner Bros. I mean, they still needed money by then, anyways. So yeah,
I mean, they still need money now.
yeah,
They
It
lost a
hasn't
lot of
changed.
money on the Flash. A lot.
I mean, even the Batman didn't perform as much as they wanted to. They wanted
What
it
did it
to.
get? Let's see.
It got to 771 million on a 185 to 200 million dollar budget.
But they did also have to sit on it for a while because of
Yes.
COVID. So you're talking about they probably, I mean, they well over broke even because they would have had to make probably about 450 to break even. So but they likely were looking at this to be
They wanted this to be $1 billion movie.
Yeah, $1 billion. So you're probably looking at like 200 to 300 million less than what they were expecting.
Yep, basically. So I think that they're gonna learn from that and cut down the movie, because I think that the 3 hour runtime was what they stated as one of the biggest problems.
Oh,
Well, what
100%.
most people stated as the biggest problem, and it's true, because if you have a 3 hour movie, make sure that every fucking hour counts. Make sure that you want to watch every hour.
I remember the Dark Knight was like, people even back when the Dark Knight came out, people complained that was long, and that one was like a half hour shorter than the Batman. So it's like, let's see, it was the Dark Knight was 152 minutes, the Batman was 176, so it was 24 minutes shorter, and people still said that one was too long.
Yeah, it's like, come on, man. We've got, and yeah, here we are at 3 hours 15 too on our live stream.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but we're entertaining people, supposedly.
Exactly. Yeah, we're not we're not Paul Dano basically just screaming around. It's like,
yeah, that's still to this day the weirdest thing for me.
Man, it's Paul Dano in the cast. What would you expect?
The thing is, I remember him in movies, but I never remember what they are.
It's well, my favorite one is Little Miss Sunshine. He plays the brother.
Yeah, and he's colorblind, but he wants to be a pilot. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
that
and then one of my favorite movies ever. He basically gets beat up the entire movie. It's Prisoners, 2013 with Hugh Jackman, the one where his daughter gets kidnapped.
I never seen that one. I'll have to check it out.
It's really, really good. You should watch it. And people in the chat too, you should watch it if you haven't, man. Prisoners 2013. Before
we start to pack it in on the movie, the one thing I do like about this scene, it's one thing that comic fans would notice, but like your average person wouldn't. She mentions Bloodhaven, and Bloodhaven is actually it's like the sister city to Gotham. It's actually worse than Gotham. It's like
it's where Nightwing operates, right?
Yeah, it's where Nightwing operates. Yeah, and I just like that little touch, because it does. I don't even necessarily believe that is a them trying to set up for anything else. That was just a cool little like.
It's to make it feel more alive, you know.
Yeah.
And plus in reference to the comics, like, oh, okay, so we have towns next to us.
Yeah.
It's like,
Bloodhaven is actually like even worse than Gotham. Like it's because it doesn't have Batman, so it's like we do have a couple other super chats.
Let's do them.
Yeah. Okay, this one from Norman Barud. We'll have to see the replay. Got to build a fence. Hey, so can you build a seawall as well? Because apparently Gotham needs a new one of those. But no, yeah, I will get the details when I finalize the channel for repost. I will put out on all social medias. It'll be a community post, it'll be a Twitter, and anybody who's interested can also subscribe to that channel. It'll be a combo channel for both me and Uninspired, so it won't be for one or the other.
Yep.
I have a couple of older like watch alongs with a couple of guys that I might post there as well. I shouldn't say I might. I'm going to. I just don't know when. I don't know if I'm going to let it like do them in like all at once, or if I plan to like maybe do one next week and then wait another couple weeks and stuff to kind of like give time to it, because I want to do a little research on exactly how, if I post too many too quickly, if that's a problem.
Yeah, we'll check that out.
Yeah. And we have Waylon Bucephus, my favorite super chatter in the whole world. Batman Year One TV series would be epic. Long Halloween season 2, Dark Victory season 3.
Yeah.
Oh, and that was for $4.99. I have to get used to saying the amount that they say. This is new to me. I've only been monetized for a few weeks, so I agree with that. Actually, I'm going to leave it up because that Batman Year One, obviously, that's the starting point. But like Long Halloween, Dark Victory is pretty good. It's not as good as Long Halloween, but it's pretty good. And then there's also, I mean, unfortunately, the third book in that series is Haunted Night, which has zero placement. Like I will give money to anybody who can tell me where the hell those stories are placed because they're so like it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, they're just random.
They're random Halloween stories, but they take place on different Halloweens, so it can't be on the long Halloween.
I see what you mean.
So like. But he's already, it's weird. It's like he's already Two-Face. Harvey Dent's already Two-Face. So but it can't take place between Dark Victory. It's such a weird placement.
Yep. And
then the last one we have here, RRT and Z for $2 New Zealand. Rip Calculon. We shall not see his like again. I mean, he's starting to get well known amongst all of the various streams and stuff. So.
Yeah, well, Calculon lives on, man. Technically,
Calculon's coming back because they have Futurama back. So Calculon's coming back.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Ah, man. And so yeah, this is Selina Kyle. I like the fact that she has the claws of Catwoman too. I think that's a nice touch. It seems a bit impractical, but it's a nice touch. Then yeah, you've got the last scene of the movie is just both of them riding out together, which I love, to be honest. I just feel like
they go their separate ways, kind of thing.
Yeah,
cool.
And after that, they just leave, and I just like the fact that it holds on Batman looking at her in the rear view, and then once she leaves, you see that he's on go mode. He's like, "All right, it's time to go save Gotham."
I do appreciate that. There's not much in the way of daylight scenes with Batman, but they didn't shy 100% away from them either.
Yeah,
they didn't. It wasn't as bad as The Dark Knight Rises, where like you had like an open gang war in the middle of the streets in the daytime. But seeing that like the like break of dawn kind of scenes is pretty good because it's like that's where he's ending his like his shift, so to say.
Yeah, basically, yeah. I think that it's a really interesting thing that the fact that they used the film uses a lot of shadows too. So even the night scenes are pretty well shot and all of that. And in relation to Batman himself, I would understand why now at this point of his career, he would like to only work exclusively at night. To drive the fear of God in people, basically. And he doesn't mind, basically he sleeps during the day, doesn't he? That's what he says, because he's not
the majority
really
of crime occurs at night. Like it's an overwhelming majority of the type of crime he would be going after.
Yeah, basically
is at night. But daytime crime is usually white collar crime, which he's not going to be dealing with.
He has to leave something to do for the cops, at least.
Yeah. But yeah, so I guess I know we already pretty much summed up like what we thought about the movie, but anybody have any final thoughts?
Then boom.
Yeah, Matt Reeves.
I
honestly, like if I had to give the movie, like I don't like to give out a 10 score or anything like that, but I'll try. I would say it's like a 7-ish.
Damn, you're really optimistic, bro. I'm giving this this earns a 5, 5.5 for me.
I mean, I would give it. I know that my avatar is giving 2 thumbs up, but I'd give it a thumb up. Yeah,
I would give it probably a high 7 or a low 8.
So you and me are pretty much the same boat. Could have been better, but it's above average.
But the way I rank movies is that I'm guessing most people start from 0 and then work their way up. I usually start around the 5 and then go down if there are negatives, then go up. So relative to that ranking system, it is above average for me. That's if I had to summarize it. Yeah.
I usually don't use a number system. I usually use avoid, stream, or go out and see this immediately. And this most people, I probably would have said that they could wait to stream this, but it's still pretty good. So it's like, you know.
I mean, me, what factors a lot is also the rewatchability, because, for example, you have you rewatched it since you saw it at the cinema?
No, yeah, that is why I said it's probably a streamer. Like
Yeah.
I would put it in that general. So like a movie I tell someone to stream is like, you know, is in the 5 to 7 range. A movie I tell someone that they need to go see is probably an 8 to a 10. If I tell you to avoid it, it's a 4 or less. I don't have a 0 ranking really yet.
Oh yeah.
But like that would be like a not only don't go see this, warn your family kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, look at RTN. The movie Cynic would be losing his mind. Only
I mean, he'd be losing his mind if he was still here, but he had to go watch the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
But yeah, like I'm going on a. So you see, I'm on a very strong 5 to a 6, because I feel like giving it something lower than a 5, even with its plot issues, would just be disrespectful to the film, considering that there's so much effort put into the visual style and all of the, as I said before, the style instead of the substance itself. And even though there is some substantive things, I feel like it's overshadowed a bit too much by the problems that the film has. Like, this is, you know, purely objectively, not my personal opinion, as always, you know. But subjectively, I would probably give it, let's say, a 7 or an 8. But objectively, I'm giving it like a 5.5 to a 6.
That's just too much work to go objective versus subjective. I would just say it's worth watching, but you're probably only going to watch it once.
Yeah,
maybe if you wait a couple years, you'll come back to it, kind of thing. Like, hey, or if they do end up with like the sequel, oh, let me go back and rewatch it just to see. That's kind of where I feel.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
So the Dark Knight is a weird one, and like I know that Cynic mentioned earlier that he tore it apart. There is actually a lot of problems with the Dark Knight that get overshadowed, like that get like swept under the rug because of how good Heath Ledger was in that movie.
Yeah.
But there's like right off the bat, like the first one that I could think of with the Dark Knight,
the buses.
Well, the buses, there's that. But no, the first one that just jumps out to me right away is they have this whole thing at the end where like Gordon is talking about like, oh, you know, there's so many of these people dead and this many were cops and somebody needs to take the fall. And Batman's like, oh, I did it. I killed those people. And it's like, or you could just easily be like, we don't know what happened. There was literally maniacs all over the town. We're not sure who killed them. You know, that is, if there was ever an open and shut case of like way to tell people we don't know shit, that's what it is. Like,
yeah, it's true. I actually have to rewatch the Dark Knight. Well, the entire
originally that was what we were supposed to do.
Yeah, it's true. But
I
only rewatch them about once every 2 years. The Batman movies in general. So I don't have a favorite Batman one.
When I used to test projectors, my test movie was The Dark Knight because it was, well, at the time it was the longest movie I had on Blu-ray, and I didn't want to have to keep restarting movies because like you have to have a signal to test, and I was using a Blu-ray player at the time, and it was I only had to reset that one twice in my workday for the most part. So like if you choose like a movie that's like an hour and a half, you have to restart it like 5 times.
Yeah.
So,
it's true.
But yeah, I guess that pretty much sums up what we're gonna do here. So
yeah,
hope everybody had fun.
Thank you, chat.
How'd you feel, Golden? Would you like to come back one day?
Absolutely. I've enjoyed this.
How about you, Cynic? Oh no, okay. Nah, I've already talked to Cynic. He's gonna be back.
But yeah, thanks for coming on, Golden Age, man. It's a pleasure. We really hope to have you on again. Thank you to the chat too. And yes,
I think this went pretty well considering me and the Uninspired have never actually streamed together. We've just talked about it for a while. So.
This is actually our first time like properly meeting
Yeah.
So
It was
yeah.
funny because we joked about it even. We were like joking about how like, oh, we should probably try to get on B-Sub together, Mr. Brown Alliance together. And I was like, nah, let's just keep pushing it as far as we can.
Yeah, we're just like, fuck it, the first one will be the first one, basically. And so yeah, Smilex, this will become a regular thing. Normally it's gonna be bi-weekly, so not every Saturday.
Yeah, we're maybe down the line we might switch to full weekly, but
Yep.
right now I do not have the time to do a weekly show right now. Who knows what the future holds though? And we certain weeks we might, if there's we might have some extra time to talk about more current things. This week we ran a little long, so but if it's a shorter movie, I mean, we could try a little later, but I was trying not to run completely against EFAP.
EFAP, yeah.
You know, like I wanted to at least like be a little bit of that. But like I said, there will be a repost. So
yeah. And
but yeah,
so
I think
this is the first one.
I hate the it's well, we'll call it at 3:30 because we're almost exactly 3:30, and that's what we're gonna do.
Thank you, chat. Thank you, all our beautiful moderators.
Yes, they were fantastic.
You guys are all great. Thank you again to our guest, Golden Age Geek, for coming. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on, man. Really,
I'm gonna try to do that timing thing. Hold on, I've never done that before though. I've never clicked and then said timing, and hopefully it stopped at exactly that.
All right. We'll see. EFAB, that's just ambient noise. RTNZ. All right. Well, see you guys.
Bye.
Timing.